Chapter 1475. Good quickly pointed out Wang Songshan's identity, fearing that it would be disadvantageous to him. Good was very clear about Wang Songshan's hatred for him. He wanted to take his head. He hoped that Uncle Jetson could quickly capture Wang Songshan. Oh. Good, do you know him? Is he the butterfly family's family master? Jetson's expressionless face showed a mocking expression. There really is someone who is not afraid of death. It seems that he is a big fish. Wang Songshan had been waiting for an opportunity to escape, but there was no chance. Jetson's attention had been focused on him, so Wang Songshan had to find a way to divert Jetson's attention. Otherwise, if it dragged on for too long, the elites of the Lancer family would be attracted. Then, Wang Songshan would really lose the best opportunity to escape. At this time, the opportunity came. I didn't expect Good to help me. Good, this kid, actually woke up at this time and pointed at me while yelling. He had successfully diverted Jetson's attention. Wang Songshan also heard a message from Good's words. The man in front of him was called Jetson, and he was Kevithan's cousin. Since there were two clues, it would be much more convenient to investigate. He believed that as long as he wanted to investigate, this person's identity would not become a secret. Wang Songshan chuckled. After Jetson asked that question, he threw a hidden weapon in his hand in Jetson's direction. Of course, he also gave Good a few blows. Wang Songshan firmly believed that even if Jetson wanted to catch him, it was impossible to ignore Good's safety. Since he could live in Good's house, it meant that he had a mission to protect Good. Insignificant skill. Where do you think you are going? Jetson didn't care about the concealed weapon that was shot in his direction at all. Instead, he grabbed Good and threw him behind him, allowing Wang Songshan's concealed weapon to hit him. Wang Songshan sneered in his heart. He didn't stop, turned around, and jumped out of the window. Even if you are a great master, you will eventually suffer losses if you are so careless. How can you take my concealed weapon head-on? Don't you know that the butterfly family is famous for assassination? These concealed weapons are highly poisonous. You seem to be fine when these concealed weapons hit you, but since you want to die, then don't blame me. Wang Songshan didn't look back at all because in his opinion, Jetson had already become a dead man. He actually used his body to block my hidden weapon. Isn't this courting death? The reason why Wang Songshan was so sure was that Wang Songshan had observed when he entered the room before. Whether it was Jetson or Good, they were wearing ordinary pajamas. They didn't wear any other clothes underneath. The skin exposed from their necks could prove this point. Therefore, Wang Songshan's hidden weapon could definitely pierce Jetson's body. The poison on the hidden weapon would kill anyone who saw it. Even if Jetson saved Good, he would also be finished. As long as Jetson was dead, the Lancer family would lose its backer. It would be easy to take Good's life after that. That was why Wang Songshan left so quickly. However, as soon as Wang Songshan jumped down, he felt that something was wrong. Because the sound of the wind whistling behind him indicated that someone had caught up. Who is catching up? Wang Songshan didn't look back, but quickly fled according to the route he had found before. No matter who was chasing behind him, Wang Songshan didn't intend to fight. However, a shout behind him changed Wang Songshan's mind. It turns out that the butterfly family's family master is such a cowardly scoundrel. Jetson's voice came from behind. You want to hurt me with a few broken concealed weapons? You think too highly of yourself. Wang Songshan was shocked. He had made many assumptions before. The person who was following him might have been someone who had been lying in ambush around Good's villa, but he never thought that it would be Jetson. Wasn't he hit by my concealed weapon? Why is he still alive and kicking like nothing happened? Isn't this too strange? However, before Wang Songshan had time to think about it, he felt that the distance between him and the person behind him had narrowed to a very small extent. Wang Songshan no longer dared to neglect. He quickly turned around, and without looking in front of him, he quickly kicked out. This kick was fierce and concentrated all the strength in Wang Songshan's body. He wanted to hit the target in one hit. Otherwise, the person behind him would be really difficult to deal with, giving Wang Songshan a headache. I should have listened to Yang Ming's advice and wait and see before making any plans. I didn't expect to be ambushed by the Lancer family when I rashly rushed over. Bang! Wang Songshan's kick landed right on Jetson's abdomen. Wang Songshan was overjoyed. He was very clear about the strength of this kick. If it landed on a person's body, even if they didn't die, their intestines would be smashed, and they would instantly lose their combat ability. Wang Songshan didn't expect his luck to be so good. He turned around and kicked the target casually. Isn't this luck too good? However, before Wang Songshan could be happy, the next scene made him shut his mouth. His face was suddenly filled with disbelief. It was true that Wang Songshan had kicked Jetson's lower abdomen, but the strength of this kick not only failed to make Jetson take a step back, but it didn't even bend his waist. Not only that, Jetson still maintained his forward charging state as if he didn't notice the kick. He continued to run forward and directly knocked Wang Songshan out, causing him to fall to the ground. Is he still human? Could it be that this guy has trained some kind of unbreakable body like Jean Gang or something? After being kicked by me, nothing happened, and he can even knock me out. For the first time, fear appeared in Wang Songshan's heart. Although Wang Songshan was a little nervous from seeing Jetson to escaping, it was definitely not to the point of fear. I am the dignified family master of the butterfly family. How can ordinary things make me afraid? But now, Wang Songshan was really a little scared. The kung fu of this guy named Jetson in front of me seems to be very strange. Wang Songshan's previous hidden weapon hit him, but he seemed to be fine. Judging from the pajamas he was currently wearing, his clothes were indeed cut by the hidden weapon, but there was no blood at all. This showed that the hidden weapon didn't cause any damage to him at all. It was the same for Wang Songshan's kick just now. Even if Wang Songshan used all his strength, he couldn't do anything to Jetson. Instead, he was knocked out by Jetson. Looking at Jetson, who wasn't hurt at all, striding towards him, Wang Songshan's heart was clouded. This person is really a master, and I can't see through him at all. This person's kung fu is too strange. His running speed is obviously faster than mine. I definitely can't outrun him even if I want to escape. Gritting his teeth, Wang Songshan quickly made a decision in his heart. He took out a small pistol from his waist and aimed it at Jetson, who was running towards him. Wang Songshan had not used guns before, but knives and hidden weapons because Wang Songshan was afraid of alarming the other members of the Lancer family. But now, it was time to save his life. Wang Songshan couldn't care so much. It was better to solve the big trouble in front of him first. If this person didn't die, he definitely couldn't escape today. Bang! Wang Songshan aimed at Jetson and pulled the trigger. The bullets suddenly crossed the night sky and whistled towards Jetson's head. Chapter 1476. How fast was the bullet? How fierce was its power? Wang Songshan believed that even if his shot couldn't kill Jetson, it could still injure him. After all, the head was one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. If Jetson didn't dodge, he would either die or be injured. However, to Wang Songshan's surprise, Jetson didn't seem to realize the danger of his situation. He simply ignored Wang Songshan's shot and let the bullet hit his face. Bang! The bullet hit Jetson's head and made a muffled sound. However, it was as if it had hit an elastic rubber. It suddenly bounced back and disappeared into the grass at the side. If Wang Songshan was surprised that Jetson was not hurt by the flying dagger and that his full-strength kick did not hurt him, then he was completely horrified now. How can a person be invulnerable? The bullet hit the head, but it bounced back quickly as if it had hit a piece of rubber. Is this possible? But the fact happened in front of Wang Songshan's eyes. He couldn't help but believe it. Wang Songshan was not ignorant. On the contrary, as an assassin family, he had a little understanding of some secret martial arts. He had heard of martial arts such as Golden Bell Shield, Iron Shirt, Copper Head, Iron Arm, and so on. However, Wang Songshan had never heard of this kind of martial arts that was invulnerable to even firearms. Although there were some secret techniques that could train a person's body to be very tough and indestructible, it was impossible to train to the state of invulnerability. Then, one would no longer be a human. What was the difference between one and an immortal? However, the thing in front of him was really so strange. Jetson was such a person. Not only could the concealed weapon not hurt him, but even the bullet was bounced back by him. Although Jetson was not hurt at all, he was extremely angry when he saw that Wang Songshan dared to shoot at him at this moment. However, he still snorted coldly on the surface and stretched out his right arm to grab Wang Songshan. Wang Songshan knew about Jetson's strangeness. How would he dare to fight head-on? He quickly jumped up from the ground and used the butterfly family's secret technique, butterfly micro-steps, barely dodging Jetson's fierce grab. It wasn't that Jetson's martial arts were brilliant. On the contrary, he had no martial arts to speak of. He just stretched out his hand and grabbed casually. His speed was too fast and his strength was too strong, which made Wang Songshan horrified. If he didn't have his family's unique skill, he might have been captured by this grab. Wang Songshan really had no chance of winning in the face of such a powerful and invulnerable monster. At this moment, he regretted it to the extreme. If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't have come, even if he had let the Lancer family go. He blamed himself for being too arrogant and reckless, which had led to the current situation. Phew. Wang Songshan had just breathed a sigh of relief when Jetson's big hand attacked him again. This person seems to have no idea of exhaustion at all, and there is no gap between each move. After one move, the next move is directly launched, without any gap. No matter how big the previous move was, he could pull it back and continue with the next move. Cold sweat trickled down Wang Songshan's forehead. This person was the biggest enemy he had ever encountered in his life. This person had no weakness at all. Wang Songshan had no confidence in killing him. It was already a blessing to be able to escape alive. Wang Songshan had escaped Jetson's attack with his exquisite footwork, but if this dragged on, he would inevitably end up being captured. Wang Songshan didn't dare to imagine how the Lancer family would treat him once he fell into their hands. Would they treat him like how he treated Good? However, it was impossible to escape because Jetson didn't give him a chance to breathe at all. Wang Songshan couldn't even take care of himself. How could he find the time to escape? The gunshots just now and the fighting sound now had attracted a lot of people from the Lancer family. Groups of black-clothed security guards swarmed over. Wang Songshan was getting more and more anxious. Although one of these security guards was not his opponent at all, there were too many of them. Wang Songshan felt a chill in his heart when he saw these people surrounding him. He knew that he definitely couldn't escape today. Even if he could kill some of these people, it would inevitably slow down his escape speed. Jetson, who was eyeing him covetously, could easily catch him from behind. Old thief Wang Songshan, why don't you surrender and be captured? Do you want to leave your life here? Kevathan was standing on a high platform not far away at the moment, shouting at Wang Songshan with a loudspeaker. Kevathan was actually very upset that he couldn't kill Wang Songshan on the spot. In his opinion, these people who dared to provoke the Lancer family must be taught a bloody lesson. It was better to kill them all. However, Thomas objected. Since he had already announced that the butterfly family's miss would marry his grandson, Good, then Wang Songshan would become his grandson's father-in-law. In this way, it would be inappropriate to kill Wang Songshan. It was equivalent to completely going against the butterfly family. It would be impossible for his nephew to marry Wang Xiaoyan. Leckroft also felt that they shouldn't kill Wang Songshan and offend the butterfly family. As a matter of fact, it was impossible for Jetson to stay in the Lancer family all year round. Offending the butterfly family was equivalent to going against a group of assassins. Could they still live like this? Unless everyone in the Lancer family didn't go out, they would be afraid of being assassinated when they went out. Although Kevithan disagreed and felt that as long as the butterfly family was completely scared, they would not be afraid of not surrendering. However, since the two family elders were against it, Kevithan couldn't be stubborn. Although Slade was Kevithan's father and had spent his entire life studying how to go against Thomas and Leckroft, he still chose to capture Wang Songshan alive after considering it for a long time. After all, what Leckroft said was very reasonable. Even if they could completely destroy the butterfly family, who knew if they still had hidden forces? When Jetson left and the hidden forces of the butterfly family came for revenge, it would be the end of the Lancer family. Even if it was a glorious family, it was not a fun thing to be targeted by a group of professional assassins. Kevithan was also muddle-headed before. Hearing his father's analysis, he had to agree with this suggestion. So, he sent the news of capturing Wang Songshan to Jetson through the wireless headset. Kevithan also began to shout at Wang Songshan arrogantly. Wang Songshan was slightly stunned after listening to Kevithan's words. Does the other party not want to kill me, but want to capture me? However, Wang Songshan might not believe Kevithan's words. It was just that in the current situation, Wang Songshan was one of his own people and knew his own affairs. I'm afraid I can't hold on for long. In this moment of distraction, Jetson hit Wang Songshan's head with his palm. Wang Songshan immediately saw stars. His feet were weak, and he was captured by Jetson. Wang Songshan sighed in his heart. Although he was caught, Wang Songshan didn't feel dissatisfied at all. It was within Wang Songshan's expectations that the other party could catch him. The other party's strength was higher than his. It was simply not on the same level. Wang Songshan didn't make any unnecessary struggles and resistance. He just said to Jetson, who lifted him up like an eagle catching a chick, "Put me down, I can walk by myself." Jetson acted as if he didn't hear it. He still grabbed Wang Songshan and strode in the direction of Kevithan. While walking, he reached out and searched Wang Songshan's body. He found all the previous pistols, hidden weapons, and other items and threw them aside. Wang Songshan was still thinking that if he could get close to Kevithan for a while, he would wait for an opportunity to use him as a hostage. Then, he would threaten Jetson to make him retreat and leave a way out for himself. However, this idea was quickly broken by Jetson. The things he carried were thrown out, and Wang Songshan also lost the means to threaten Kevithan. Chapter 1477. Wang Songshan was escorted in front of Kevithan. This was the first time Wang Songshan had been insulted like this, but it couldn't be helped. Wang Songshan was not as good as others. Even if Wang Songshan was angry, he could do nothing. The other party's backer was so powerful that Wang Songshan couldn't even think of resisting. Because Wang Songshan knew that he was definitely not his opponent. Wang Songshan, I didn't expect this. I have already released the news, but you still dare to come alone. You are quite bold, aren't you? Kevithan sneered at Wang Songshan. Humph, Kevithan, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't say these useless things. Wang Songshan's mood at this moment was completely calm. Since he didn't want to escape, then he could think of many other things. I admit that your Lancer family's backer is very powerful this time. I am not his opponent. Even in our family, no one is his opponent. Wang Songshan was very honest. Since he was not as good as others, he might as well admit it generously. It seems that you still have some self-awareness. Kevithan heard Wang Songshan admitting defeat, and his heart was excited. Ha 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 ha, Wang Songshan, you didn't expect that you would have such a day, right? You must be very happy to be my prisoner, right? It was no wonder that Kevithan was a little complacent. This was normal. The Lancer family had been pressured by the butterfly family for so long. How could they not be happy when they finally turned the tables? Therefore, it was normal to take the opportunity to mock Wang Songshan. Kevithan, although I admit that I have failed today and underestimated the power of your Lancer family, I'm afraid it won't be so easy for you to keep me alive, right? Wang Songshan was not stupid. Seeing that the other party did not kill him on the spot, he must have some scruples. This way, Wang Songshan was relieved. Wang Songshan, aren't you too naive? I brought you here not to kill you, but to let you know the consequences of offending our Lancer family. Kevithan was furious when he saw Wang Songshan so calm. If you wanted to kill me, you could have done it just now, but I don't think you would kill me. Wang Songshan said lightly, although there is no one in our butterfly family who can match Jetson, I don't believe that Jetson will stay here to protect the Lancer family for the rest of his life and not leave even half a step. Otherwise, after my death, the butterfly family's assassins will not rest until the Lancer family is dead. Fight to the death? When Kevithan saw that Wang Songshan was so fearless, he became even angrier. What a good fight to the death. I will let cousin Jetson destroy the entire butterfly family. I will see how you will fight to the death with me then. Hee, whatever. Wang Songshan was not afraid at all. As long as you can find all of the butterfly family's forces and those complicated relationships and destroy them, then you will naturally be free of worries. Otherwise, you can imagine the result yourself. Wang Songshan's words were obviously full of threats, which shocked Kevithan. Fortunately, he didn't choose to kill Wang Songshan back then. Otherwise, it would always be a big problem. Thinking about the feeling of being targeted by a group of assassins, it didn't seem to be a good sign. However, although he thought so in his heart, Kevithan didn't want to admit it on the surface. I won't kill you just because my cousin Good is going to marry your daughter. How can I make a move on you when the two families become in-laws? Marry my daughter? Wang Songshan sneered, this is impossible. My daughter is already engaged. You should give up on this idea. So what if she is engaged? Aren't they not married yet? Kevithan said indifferently, Wang Songshan, I have a lot of time, but you don't have much time. Think about it. If your family sees that you are missing, what will they do? Will your daughter come to the door? However, I don't mind letting my cousin use force at that time. So, you should think about it yourself. Do you want to fall out with our Lancer family? Kevithan, you are so despicable. Wang Xiaoyan's heart sank after listening to Kevithan's words. He was missing. With Wang Xiaoyan's temper, it was impossible for her to let it go. She would definitely come to the door. At that time, as long as Jetson was there, he would definitely be able to keep Wang Xiaoyan and even Yang Ming. If it was really like what Kevithan said, his daughter would probably die. However, it was also impossible for her to marry Good. Wang Songshan was really in a dilemma. He was the dignified family master of the butterfly family, but he was coerced and couldn't do anything. It was really cowardly. Take him away first and wait until he figures it out. Kevithan knew that Wang Songshan was calculating in his heart at the moment, so he didn't force him. Anyway, the Lancer family had the upper hand now. There was nothing to be afraid of. Let him slowly think about it. Yes. A group of disciples who were already prepared ran out and tied Wang Songshan's hands and feet. Then, they carried him down and locked him in one of the Lancer family's confinement rooms. This confinement room was built by the Lancer family to punish those disciples who had made mistakes and lock them up. They didn't expect it to come in handy at this time. Jing Xiaolu, Bao Sanli, and Su Xiaobin were anxiously waiting for news from Lu Huamei in the hotel. The three of them didn't even have the mood to go out for a stroll. They sat in the hotel room and waited quietly for the phone call. The phone rang urgently. Jing Xiaolu quickly picked up the phone. Hello, this is Jing Xiaolu, Vice President Jing, this is Lu Huamei. Lu Huamei already knew her grandfather's plan, so her voice became calm. This time, it was not a bad thing to be sent to work in Songjiang. It was also an opportunity for her to train. Hello, Director Lu. Jing Xiaolu hurriedly said, is there any progress in the matter? The chairman has decided to sign a new contract with you. The person in charge of this cooperation is me. I will be responsible for all matters in Songjiang in the future, Lu Huamei said, wait for me. I will be there in a while. That's great, Jing Xiaolu said, then we will wait for you at the hotel. Half an hour later, Lu Huamei appeared in the hotel. After Jing Xiaolu and the others stepped forward to shake hands and exchange greetings in surprise, Lu Huamei said something that surprised everyone. I will be in Songjiang with you for a while in the future. The board of directors has decided that I will be the general manager of the Songjiang branch and be fully responsible for this cooperation. Speaking of this, Lu Huamei seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head and apologized to Su Xiaobin. Perhaps, you won't have any thoughts about taking manager Su's previous position, right? Why would I? Su Xiaobin shook his head. He was already satisfied that he could get through this crisis. As for the position of the general manager of the branch, it was fine if he didn't do it. If Lu Huamei did it, he would have some confidence in negotiating with the group. If it were him, Lu Zhenan might not necessarily make things difficult for him. However, the newly established company will still give you a high-level position, Lu Huamei said. Lu Huamei said, this incident was all caused by Lu Jifei. You are innocent. However, you also know who is behind Lu Jifei, so you can't do anything to him for the time being. If you are still angry with him, I suggest you bear with it first and think about it later. Lu Huamei vaguely pointed out the grudge between Su Xiaobin and Lu Jifei, reminding him not to be anxious if he wanted to retaliate against Lu Jifei. After all, Lu Jifei was in power now and couldn't touch him. Lu Huamei couldn't say anything else. She couldn't say that Lu Zhenan might be taken down by the old man one day. At that time, it would be easy for him to deal with Lu Jifei. Director Lu, I understand. You can rest assured that I won't cause trouble for the company. Su Xiaobin smiled bitterly. He also understood that the grudge between him and Lu Jifei was not easy to resolve. It was just that he didn't have the strength to retaliate against Lu Jifei now. Chapter 1478. Lu Huamei's car was a red Audi A4L. It didn't look arrogant. Logically speaking, it was normal for a rich girl like Lu Huamei to drive a sports car. However, it could be seen that Lu Huamei was actually a very low-key person. Director Lu, what will happen to the group's work after you leave? Jing Xiaolu couldn't help but ask even though she felt that it was a bit abrupt. Lu Huamei seemed to be planning to stay in Songjiang. She obviously didn't plan to come back to Jiangyan City. Wouldn't that affect her work? The finance department will be temporarily handed over to my elder brother, Lu Zhenan. Lu Huamei smiled slightly. Although I still hold the position of the finance director, I don't have much to do in reality. Ah. Jing Xiaolu was slightly stunned. She couldn't understand. Why does it seem like Lu Huamei was promoted in name but demoted in reality? That Lu Zhenan not only didn't lose his power after being dealt a blow, but he was also put in charge of the finance department. What the hell is going on inside the Jiangyan group? Do you feel that I was demoted in name but demoted in reality? Lu Huamei saw Jing Xiaolu's reaction and smiled knowingly. She knew what she was thinking. I do feel that way. Jing Xiaolu didn't hide it and nodded honestly. I can't do anything about the old man's decision, Lu Huamei shrugged. However, it's not necessarily a bad thing to come out and train. That's true. Jing Xiaolu saw that Lu Huamei's words seemed to be hiding something, so she didn't ask anymore. After all, these were other people's private matters. It wasn't good to talk about it. I wish us a happy cooperation in the future. Happy cooperation. Lu Huamei smiled. You don't have to call me Director Lu anymore. Just call me Huamei. We're considered to be on the same side. That's great. Then Sister Huamei can call me Xiaolu in the future. Jing Xiaolu agreed happily. Lu Huamei should be slightly older than Jing Xiaolu, so Jing Xiaolu called her Sister Huamei. Okay, Xiaolu, I'm going to Songjiang. I don't have a place to stay yet. You are the landlord. Help me find a better hotel and book a room first. Lu Huamei didn't have a place to stay in Songjiang. She didn't have to stay in Songjiang for long this time, so she planned to find a better hotel to book a room and stay there for a while. Speaking of hotels, that's easy. Jing Xiaolu smiled and said, "The Songjiang International Hotel is a subsidiary of our Mingyang. I will ask them to open a private room for you. The cost will be on us." "Oh. Your company has its own hotel industry?" Lu Huamei was slightly stunned after hearing Jing Xiaolu's words. She didn't expect Ming Yang's business in Songjiang to be so big that he even had a subordinate hotel. When she investigated the background of the Ming Yang security company, Lu Huamei didn't see any companies under the security company. Jing Xiaolu knew that Lu Huamei had investigated the background and asset structure of the Ming Yang security company when she saw Lu Huamei's expression. She explained with a smile, "Sister Huamei, our Ming Yang security company and Ming Yang Entertainment Development Company, Limited are actually two companies under the same management. Because of the special nature of the security company, we must be affiliated with the police station. So on the surface, we have no contact with Ming Yang Entertainment. So that's it." Lu Huamei understood after hearing Jing Xiaolu's explanation. It seemed that she had underestimated the other party's strength. "Since you are the host, then I won't be polite." "That's right." Jing Xiaolu didn't want Lu Huamei to be too estranged. After all, the two of them would be partners for a long time in the future. Jiangyan Group. Since the moment Lu Huamei went to Songjiang, the direction of the wind had changed. Many people who were originally on the fence had all turned to Lu Zhenan's camp. Lu Huamei was promoted on the surface but demoted on the surface. Lu Zhenan didn't use her well, but he still took over the company's finance department. This was beyond many people's expectations. Those who were originally on Lu Zhenan's side were all proud at this moment. Once Lu Zhenan successfully took over, he would definitely carry out a major cleansing in the company. When that time came, it would be a good opportunity for them to take over. Those who weren't on Lu Zhenan's side were all in danger at this moment. They were thinking about whether they should turn to Lu Zhenan's camp. For a time, Lu Zhenan's right to speak in the Jiangyan group suddenly rose to a considerable height. Even his younger brother Lu Zhiqiao, who had always been at odds with Lu Zhenan, retreated and didn't dare to confront him directly. Lu Zhenan also gradually had the right to speak in the board of directors. Even Lu Hua, as the president, began to pay attention to his son's opinion in many situations. This was because a strange phenomenon seemed to be playing out on Old Master Lu Jiangyan's side. Old Master Lu Jiangyan basically gave the green light to most of Lu Zhenan's suggestions, whether they were reasonable or not. This unusual signal made many people who were still hesitating begin to prepare to stand on the side of the line. In Songjiang, a new escort company was officially established. The Ming Yang Security Company invested 150 million yuan and accounted for 51% of the shares. The Jiangyan Group in Jiangyan City invested 120 million yuan and accounted for 49% of the shares, including the initial personnel training of the company. It seemed that the Jiangyan Group had taken a big advantage, but this was also a decision made after careful consideration by Jing Xiaolu and Bao Sanli after research. This time, the turn of events was all thanks to Lu Huamei. If it weren't for Lu Huamei, things might still be in a deadlock. So Jing Xiaolu didn't mind taking a little loss to give Lu Huamei a performance. Moreover, although the Ming Yang Security Company occupied a dominant position in the newly established company, it had never carried out a similar business. The initial operation and escort team relied on the Jiangyan Group's recruitment and training. The newly established company was named Mingjiang Escort Company, Limited. Jing Xiaolu was the executive president, Su Xiaobin was the executive vice president, Lu Huamei was the board member of the investor, and Bao Sanli was the chairman. As for the Jiangyan Group, although Lu Zhenan was in the limelight now, he didn't make things difficult for the branch in Songjiang. Lu Zhenan readily approved Lu Huamei's request for the secondment of the escort team and some training personnel. He didn't know if it was because he felt that Lu Huamei could no longer pose any threat to him, or because Old Master Lu Jiangyan was still there, so he didn't dare to go too far. In short, everything was peaceful. With Lu Huamei at the helm of the Jiangyan Group's Songjiang branch, everything went smoothly. This made Su Xiaobin, who was still nervous before, breathe a sigh of relief. He was originally considering whether to temporarily leave the group for a while to avoid the limelight. After all, Lu Jifei didn't succeed in becoming the deputy director of the finance department this time because of Su Xiaobin. Although Lu Jifei didn't get promoted, he was still a popular person in front of Lu Jinan, so Su Xiaobin was afraid that this guy would retaliate against him. But now it seemed that Lu Jifei had disappeared and never appeared in public again. He didn't use Lu Jinan's hand to find trouble with Su Xiaobin. Even when Su Xiaobin became the executive vice president of the Mingjiang Escort Company, Lu Jinan didn't say anything about being unwilling. This made Su Xiaobin a little puzzled. Is this Lu Jinan really forgetful? Is he too lazy to bother with a small character like me? In short, everything was developing in a good direction, and Jing Xiaolu finally breathed a sigh of relief. In the case where Yang Ming wasn't at home, she completed this big cooperation business on her own. Although there were many twists and turns during this period, and she almost fell into a big trap set by the other party, fortunately, she managed to avert the danger in the end. Otherwise, even if Yang Ming didn't say anything when he came back, Jing Xiaolu wouldn't feel good in her heart. Now, this matter was solved entirely by her own strength. Thinking about it, Yang Ming would also look at her in a new light, right? Sitting in the spacious and bright office, Jing Xiaolu looked at herself in the mirror of the phone screen narcissistically. Finally, I'm not a vase anymore. I can also help his career, but there is still a big gap between me and the woman who has helped him a lot in his career and even made him inseparable. It seems that I still need to work hard. I hope that I can do it. When Yang Ming really finds out that he can't do without me one day, Jing Xiaolu knows that that is her true happiness. Chapter 1479. It had been 3 days. It had been 3 days since Wang Songshan left the butterfly family. However, there was no news at all. This made Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan have an ominous feeling in their hearts. Yang Ming had felt that something was wrong since yesterday. Whether Wang Songshan succeeded or failed, there should be news. However, there was no news now. Although no news was good news, this sentence did not apply to Wang Songshan. This was because Wang Songshan carried the butterfly family's unique communication equipment when he left. It could send out early warnings or distress signals to inform the family at any time and place. However, the family did not receive any signal. Then, the situation became complicated. One was that Wang Songshan had met with an accident before he had time to use the communication equipment to warn. The other was that there was a signal shield near the Lancer family, so the message could not be sent out. Of course, the possibility of the second point was quite small because the Lancer family was a normal family. They could communicate with the outside world normally. It was impossible to set up a signal shield system. Moreover, the butterfly family's communication equipment was similar to a satellite phone. The signal was transmitted through the satellite, so the possibility of being blocked was very small. Yang Ming, I am a little worried about my father. Wang Xiaoyan frowned, leaned lightly on Yang Ming and said softly. Not only was Wang Xiaoyan worried about the butterfly family, but others were also very worried, including Fang Tian, Wang Ruoshui, Butler Mu, and others. However, they all tacitly chose not to say it out loud. They were afraid that Yang Ming and Wang Xiaoyan would be worried. For the disciples of the butterfly family, Wang Songshan was a godlike existence in their hearts. In their opinion, how could anything happen to the family master? However, things did not go as they wished. The entire butterfly family was filled with a hazy atmosphere. What did the disciple in charge of the intelligence department say? Yang Ming sighed and asked. I don't know. I didn't ask. Why don't we ask my aunt and Butler Mu together? Although Wang Xiaoyan was the young lady of the butterfly family, these family affairs were still in the hands of Butler Mu. Now that Wang Ruoshui was back, it was not Wang Xiaoyan's turn to worry. Well, maybe there is news. Yang Ming smiled and comforted her. Wang Xiaoyan also smiled bitterly. She knew that Yang Ming was comforting her. If there was news, How could Butler Mu and her aunt not inform her immediately? Fang Tian, Wang Ruoshui, and Butler Mu were all sitting in the butterfly family's conference room. In the past 2 days, apart from eating and resting, the three of them had been sitting here almost all the time, waiting for the family's disciples to report the latest situation. In the beginning, Fang Tian and the others didn't take it seriously. They thought that it would be a piece of cake for Wang Songshan to launch a sneak attack on a prodigal young master like Good. It wouldn't take much effort at all. However, there was no news for 2 consecutive days. This made everyone's hearts sink. Their initial confidence had also disappeared because things were too strange. Wang Songshan was not the kind of person who could not see the big picture. After he arrived at his destination, he would contact the family regardless of whether the mission was successful or not. However, this was not the case in fact. It was inevitable that people would think in a bad direction. "Aunt, Butler Mu, is there any news of my father?" Wang Xiaoyan pushed open the door of the conference room. When she saw the hazy mood on everyone's faces, her heart could not help but sink to the bottom. "It seems that most of my guesses have become reality, not yet." Butler Mu shook his head with a bitter smile. "Yen Yen, don't worry. The family master is extraordinary. Nothing will happen. Is there any special reaction from the Lancer family?" Yang Ming did not ask about Wang Songshan as usual. Instead, he asked about the Lancer family. "No, according to the feedback from our disciple in charge of intelligence, the Lancer family, as usual, is crazily retaliating against those allies who did not lend a helping hand when they asked for help. Now, many of their allies have gone into hiding. Even their businesses have been temporarily closed," said Butler Mu. After Yang Ming heard Butler Mu's words, he could not help but sigh slightly and said, "It seems that this time, Uncle Wang is really doomed." Yang Ming's words made the conference room suddenly fall into silence. Although everyone had already prepared for the worst in their hearts, no one said it because as long as there was a glimmer of hope, they didn't want what they thought to be true. However, when Yang Ming said it out loud, it shattered the only trace of fantasy that they originally had. "Why are you so sure?" Fang Tian looked at Yang Ming and asked. Fang Tian's heart was also upset that his old friend's life was uncertain. If Uncle Wang succeeded and successfully killed Good, then the Lancer family would not have no reaction at all. Yang Ming silently analyzed, Good is already dead. How would they still have the mood to retaliate against those allies? If Uncle Wang did not succeed and successfully ran away, then the Lancer family would not have no reaction at all. They would have focused all their attention on capturing Uncle Wang and would not have time to retaliate against their allies. So, from the current reaction of the Lancer family, there is only one possibility. Uncle Wang should have been captured by the Lancer family. "You mean, my father was captured by the Lancer family?" asked Wang Xiaoyan in surprise. "This is the most likely inference." Yang Ming nodded and said, "But I think that Uncle Wang's life will not be in danger. If Uncle Wang really fell into the hands of the Lancer family, and the other party really wanted to destroy our family and fight us to the death as they claimed, then they should have killed Uncle Wang without any scruples and released this news." Yang Ming is right. Butler Mu nodded after listening to Yang Ming's analysis. But, if the family master really fell into the hands of the Lancer family, then why didn't the Lancer family release this news? Maybe, they have not thought about how to maximize the benefits. Yang Ming sneered, "They probably want to use Uncle Wang as a bargaining chip, but they have not thought about how to use him, so there is no need to make it public for the time being." Yang Ming really guessed right. The Lancer family did think so. Kevithan wanted to use Wang Songshan as a hostage to force him to force Wang Xiaoyan and Good to marry, but Wang Songshan did not agree for the time being. The Lancer family had no choice but to let Wang Songshan think about it. They would release him when he made up his mind. The reason why they did not release the news of Wang Songshan's capture was that they were afraid that this move would attract a large number of disciples of the butterfly family to retaliate. When there were more people, there would inevitably be casualties. At that time, it would be a situation where both sides would fight to the death. It would not be so easy to solve this problem. Therefore, in order to avoid this situation, the Lancer family decided to hide this news before they thought about countermeasures. Anyway, they would delay it for as long as possible. Maybe Wang Songshan would suddenly figure it out and everything would be solved smoothly. Even if Wang Songshan did not figure it out and was stubborn, it would not be too late to think of countermeasures. Anyway, they could not release the news at this time. This is very likely. Butler Mu nodded. So, what should we do next? Butler Mu had long heard that Yang Ming was not ordinary. After that, he saw that the patriarch of the Buffon family, Old Buffon, was also Yang Ming's disciple, so he subconsciously regarded Yang Ming as the leader of the group. He would first ask Yang Ming about everything. Chapter 1480. One is to continue to wait and see what the Lancer family is up to, but this is not a good strategy. Yang Ming said, when the Lancer family wants to announce to us that Uncle Wang is in their hands, I think that is when they have full confidence. So, although this is the safest way, it will be disadvantageous to us. Yes, we can't give the Lancer family too much time to breathe. This is very disadvantageous to us. Butler Mu nodded and said, so, should I go to the Lancer family now to ask for him? Ask for him? Yang Ming couldn't help but smile bitterly after hearing it. Uncle Mu, let's not talk about whether the other party will admit it if we ask for him. Even if they admit it, do you think we can get him out? Even Uncle Wang is not the Lancer family's opponent. Can our people be more powerful than Uncle Wang? I'm afraid we will be kept by the other party, right? Yang Ming's words hit everyone's weak spot. The people in the conference room suddenly looked at each other. Indeed, Wang Songshan's skill was not weaker than the people present. If there was anyone who was stronger than Wang Songshan, it would probably be Fang Tian. Of course, this was not counting Yang Ming's special abilities. If Yang Ming's special abilities were included, it would be unknown. Yang Ming is right. Fang Tian agreed and said, Old Wang is not a reckless person. Once he is defeated, it is impossible for him to confront the other party head-on without dodging. There is no news yet. It is most likely that he has been schemed against by the Lancer family. If the other party has the strength to scheme against Old Wang, then none of us are sure to go. Why don't I make a trip there? Yang Ming pondered for a moment. He had already made a plan in his heart. In any case, Wang Xiaoyan had now become his father-in-law. This was an indisputable fact. His relationship with Wang Xiaoyan was there. It was not justifiable for him to sit back and do nothing. When Zhou Jiejia's father was in trouble, he ran to solve it immediately. When Huang Leilei's family was in trouble, he also helped to solve it. These were not hidden from Wang Xiaoyan. So, if he did not do anything this time, Wang Xiaoyan might not say anything on the surface, but would she really not mind in her heart? Although the matter this time seemed to be a lot more troublesome, Yang Ming weighed it for a long time. He also understood that he was the only one who had a chance of winning. If others were to go, it would be of no help. Of course, Yang Ming pinned his hopes on his special ability. He wanted to be able to explore all the terrain and hidden posts inside the Lancer family in advance. Only by knowing one's own strength and the enemy's strength could he win every battle. As for winning every battle, it was a bit of a boast. It would be great if they could successfully rescue Wang Songshan. You want to go? Fang Tian was a little surprised after listening to Yang Ming's words, but he also looked at Yang Ming with some appreciation. Fang Tian was still thinking that he was the strongest among these people. Others were not as good as Yang Ming, so it was meaningless to go. But even he had no way to face the unknown strangeness. Because for so many days, there was no news about why the Lancer family had become so arrogant, how they could keep Wang Songshan, and what they relied on. In this situation where he did not know the depth of the other party, Fang Tian did not dare to go rashly. Even if he was the king of assassins, it was impossible for Fang Tian to gain any advantage when the other party was fully on guard and seemed to have invited a master to take charge. Although Fang Tian was proficient in assassination methods, it was only assassination. It was done when the other party was unprepared, and not in a head-on confrontation. Even if Fang Tian assassinated Kevithan, it would be much easier than going to the Lancer family to inquire about information and rescue Wang Songshan. After all, assassination did not require him to enter the other party's trap and confront the other party face to face. If he wanted to assassinate Kevithan, he would have to hide at home for a lifetime. Once he came out, Fang Tian had many ways to kill him. In this world, there were many people who were stronger than Fang Tian. The king of assassins did not mean that he was invincible. It could only be said that his attainments in assassination were at the peak, and he rarely missed the targets he targeted. But if Fang Tian were to participate in a one-on-one battle, he would probably lose miserably. This was the reason why Yang Ming judged that even if Fang Tian went out, he might not be Tian Long's opponent. It was because Tian Long's Shaolin Kung Fu had reached perfection. If it was not an assassination, Fang Tian was likely to lose in a head-on confrontation. The reason why Yang Ming was able to defeat Tian Long and break his martial arts was because of Yang Ming's special ability. He could see where Tian Long's Achilles heel was at once, and he directly destroyed it. This time, the reason why Yang Ming took the initiative to propose to go to the Lancer family to investigate was also the result of Yang Ming's careful consideration. After all, only he had a trump card. If other people went, they would either die or be caught. Yang Ming was not afraid of being caught. If he was caught, he could transform into Kevithan's appearance and then find a chance to escape. I think we should go to the Lancer family to investigate the situation. Yang Ming nodded and said, I am afraid that I am the most suitable candidate for this. I am not at ease if you go. Fang Tian hesitated and said, Yang Ming, I am very gratified that you can stand up at this time. My care and cultivation of you is not in vain, but now is not the time to be a hero. Everything needs to be done with caution. Master, this is the result of my careful consideration. Yang Ming called Fang Tian master for the first time formally and sincerely. It showed his determination. Fang Tian was slightly stunned when he heard Yang Ming call himself that. Then, he smiled bitterly, Yang Ming, this is really not a joke. Looking at the current situation, I am afraid that there is a high chance that you will not be able to come back. Why do you want to take this risk? I don't want and will not let Yan Yan have any regrets in this life. Yang Ming took a deep breath and said. Yang Ming. Wang Xiaoyan held Yang Ming's hand and trembled tightly. Yang Ming's words deeply touched her heart. Such a man is worthy of her lifelong commitment. His plain words were enough to move her for the rest of her life. Even if Yang Ming did not do anything, Wang Xiaoyan would not blame him. After all, things were too strange and could not be shaken with the current strength of the butterfly family. It was not easy for Yang Ming to accompany her and face the difficulties together at this moment. If it was a fickle man, seeing that the butterfly family was in trouble and that his fiancée was a woman favored by the other party, it would be strange if he did not turn around and run away. How could he stay here and give advice? No one was a fool. It was obvious that the Lancer family now had an unknown but very powerful backer. At this time, Yang Ming could still treat her like this despite knowing that he was no match for them. Wang Xiaoyan felt that even if she died now, she would have no regrets. Although Wang Xiaoyan was worried about her father, she was not an irrational person. Since her father was kept by the Lancer family, Wang Xiaoyan could also predict the strength of the other party. It could only be stronger than her father. With such an obvious gap in strength, how could Wang Xiaoyan agree to let Yang Ming take the risk? Her father had been kept by the other party. She did not want anything to happen to Yang Ming again. Yang Ming, it's better for me to go. Fang Tian also saw Wang Xiaoyan's thoughts and smiled, you little brat, you have not officially finished your apprenticeship. How can a master let his apprentice take the risk? Fuck, old man Fang, do you mean that I am not as good as you? Yang Ming glared and returned to his original arrogant appearance. You and my master's wife are newlyweds. You should have a good time at home. Why did you run out? Do you think you are going on a honeymoon? Why, you brat. Fang Tian was dumbfounded by Yang Ming's 180-degree change in attitude. I know what you mean. You don't have to provoke me. I don't want you to go because I am afraid that you will be in danger. You are my successor. If something happens to you, wouldn't our king of assassins have no successor? Chapter 1481. You won't accept another disciple? I see that your body is quite strong, and my master's wife is not old. Why don't you have a child and raise him as the little king of assassins? My idea is good, right? Get lost. Fang Tian's face turned red, and Wang Ruoshui wasn't any better. You little brat, what nonsense are you talking about? I'll go. If I die, only your master's wife will be sad. But if you little bastard die, what will happen to so many women in the family? Pfft. Wang Xiaoyan was so moved that she wiped her tears. She couldn't help but laugh at Fang Tian's words. Yeah, Yang Ming still has a lot of family members at home. If something happens to him because of my matter, won't those women fight with me? Come on, let's put it this way. Old man Fang, when have you seen me do something that I'm not sure of? Yang Ming waved his hand, stopped the dispute with Fang Tian, and began to talk about the main topic. Fang Tian was slightly stunned after listening to Yang Ming's words. He closed his eyes and thought about the meaning of Yang Ming's words. Indeed, Yang Ming, this kid, seems to be very thick-skinned. He never does anything that he isn't sure of. Could it be that this time, he has some certainty of winning? Recalling the things that Yang Ming did before, it seemed that he had a well-thought-out plan every time. In the end, things were solved smoothly. In fact, how could Yang Ming have any certainty of winning? Even if those things were solved smoothly in the past, it was just luck. Even Yang Ming himself was a little impressed by his luck, but it couldn't be helped. Only those with good luck could become a legend. Those with bad luck would have died long ago. Old man Fang, don't argue with me. I promise that I can bring Uncle Wang back this time. Yang Ming patted his chest and promised firmly. In fact, he didn't have any confidence in his heart. Fang Tian saw that Yang Ming was so confident and hesitated. I'll go with Yang Ming. Wang Xiaoyan clenched her teeth and said her decision. No. As soon as Wang Xiaoyan's voice fell, she heard several voices of objection in unison. These voices naturally came from Fang Tian, Wang Ruoshui, Butler Mu, and Yang Ming. You guys. Wang Xiaoyan was a little surprised that everyone was against it. Even Yang Ming shook his head and didn't want her to go with him. Yan, your skills are much worse than Yang Ming's. If you go, not only will you not be able to help him, you will become a burden. Wang Ruoshui sighed and explained, at that time, even if Yang Ming doesn't save my brother, it is possible for him to retreat. But if you follow, Yang Ming will take care of you. I'm afraid that neither of you will be able to come back, let alone save my brother. Although Wang Ruoshui's words were a blow to Wang Xiaoyan's self-esteem, Wang Xiaoyan was not an unreasonable person. After thinking about it, she was indeed a little impulsive. Although her words seemed to be sharing weal and woe with Yang Ming, she was indeed a little too reckless. She was afraid that she would really implicate Yang Ming. Then, Yang Ming, be careful. Wang Xiaoyan looked at Yang Ming with some reluctance. She didn't want Yang Ming to go, but now it seemed that Yang Ming had made a decision. This trip was imperative, so she could only say, you promise me that if things really don't work out, don't blame yourself. I just want you to come back safely. Don't worry, my dear little Yan. Which of the things I promised you have not been done? Yang Ming teased indifferently, wait until I destroy the Lancer family and the people behind them, then I will bring Uncle Wang back in triumph. Fang Tian sighed. I can't see through this disciple of mine. Or rather, I haven't really understood Yang Ming from the beginning. But one thing Fang Tian could be sure of was that although Yang Ming looked very shameless and dark, he was a very affectionate person. As long as he was convinced of this, it meant that his vision was not wrong. Once something goes wrong, you have to be wise and protect yourself. Although Wang Songzhan was his best friend for many years, Yang Ming was also his beloved disciple. Fang Tian didn't want anything to happen to Yang Ming. Yang Ming grinned, revealing his white teeth, but he was extremely confident. Although Yang Ming's trip this time didn't alarm anyone and didn't announce anything with great fanfare, it still didn't escape the eyes of some people. There was no doubt that there were spies from the Lancer family or the Douglas family among the peripheral members of the Butterfly family. This was because the Butterfly family also had spies in the Douglas family in the same city. It was just that the Lancer family was too far away from the Butterfly family. There was no conflict before, and the two sides were still in a cooperative relationship. Therefore, the Butterfly family didn't have spies in the Lancer family. But now, they had suffered some losses. This was because it was obvious that the ambush set by the Douglas family in their own family had worked, while the ambush set by the Douglas family in the Lancer family didn't work at all. Obviously, the Douglas family only played the role of a one-sided message transmission. They could only pass on the news that the Butterfly family had investigated to the Lancer family, but they couldn't pass on any news from the Lancer family to the Butterfly family. This was also the reason why the Butterfly family hadn't gotten any news of Wang Songzhan so far. This was because even the Douglas family might not know what was going on. Although the news of Yang Ming going to the Lancer family was deliberately concealed, Yang Ming didn't appear for a few meals, so it was still seen by some people. Therefore, the news that Yang Ming might go to the Lancer family was passed to the Lancer family from the Douglas family spies in the Butterfly family. Kevithan had just come out of the place where Wang Songzhan was imprisoned at this moment. He had just had a conversation with Wang Songzhan, but obviously, he didn't achieve his ideal goal. He secretly scolded Wang Songzhan for being stubborn, but there was nothing he could do. For Wang Songzhan, this old guy couldn't be beaten or killed. Now, he just had to catch him and wait for him to relent. Unexpectedly, this old guy seemed to have noticed the Lancer family's embarrassment and didn't relent. The Lancer family really couldn't do anything. Family Master, there is a secret report from the Douglas family. As soon as Kevithan walked into the conference room, a family disciple in charge of intelligence came to report the news. Oh. What secret report? Asked Wang Songzhan. This. The disciple glanced at the people in the conference room and was a little hesitant. Say it. These are not outsiders, especially Cousin Jetson. He is now a core figure in our family. Kevithan knew that this disciple still had some reservations about Jetson, so he explained. The other people in the conference room were Slade, Thomas, and Leckroft. Slade and Leckroft were originally elders of the family, so they didn't hide anything from them in the past. Thomas was the previous family master of the family, so he naturally held the position of an elder on the side after stepping down. There was no need to avoid it. Yes. After the disciple heard Kevithan's words, he quickly said in fear, there is a secret report from the Douglas family. An important person is missing from the Butterfly family today. According to the analysis, he should be rushing to our Lancer family. He is probably here for Wang Songzhan's matter. Oh. Who is it? Kevithan snorted indifferently. Is it that old guy named Fang Tian? It is said that he is the king of assassins. Humph, what king of assassins? He is nothing in front of Cousin Jetson. It's a good opportunity to meet him. During this time, Kevithan had already known a lot of things about the Butterfly family through the Douglas family spies in the Butterfly family. He also knew about Fang Tian, the king of assassins. If it were in the past, Kevithan would have avoided hearing the name of the king of assassins. He would definitely not have anything to do with such a person. Which normal person would be willing to go against an assassin? But now, with Cousin Jetson backing him up, Kevithan was full of confidence. What king of assassins, assassin family, they were all floating clouds. There was nothing to be afraid of. Chapter 1482. The person's name is Yang Ming. He is the direct disciple of the king of assassins, Fang Tian. The disciple in charge of delivering the information said, his other identity is the son-in-law of the butterfly family. The butterfly family's Miss, Wang Xiaoyan, is also Butterfly Wang's fiancé. Oh. The person is him? Isn't it Fong Tian? Kevathan was a little baffled when he heard the disciple's words. He was inexplicably stunned. Is his strength stronger than Fong Tian? This shouldn't be the case. The disciple in charge of delivering the information quickly replied, according to the investigation, when this Yang Ming first arrived at the butterfly castle, Wang Ruoshui asked him to compete. As a result, Yang Ming declined. I think he is not Wang Ruoshui's opponent, and Wang Ruoshui's martial arts should not be as good as Wang Songshan and Fong Tian's. It can be seen that Yang Ming may just be a great young person. Such a person dares to come alone? Doesn't he know how to spell the word death? Kevathan snorted with some amusement. Isn't he overestimating himself? Family master, I guess this Yang Ming wants to be a hero to save the beauty and show his manliness in front of Wang Xiaoyan. Thomas was thinking about his grandson, so he thought of something similar to Good's dirty deeds. Oh. That's possible now that you mention it. Kevathan seemed to think it was possible. In that case, this guy may just want to show off. Whether he dares to come here or not is another matter. Maybe he will return to the butterfly family after taking a stroll outside and declare to Wang Xiaoyan that he has tried his best, but his strength is not good enough. I don't think he will lose any face. What the family master said makes sense. Leckroft also nodded in agreement. With Jetson's previous display of power, both Leckroft and Thomas didn't dare to call Kevathan nephew anymore. Instead, they directly used the word family master. It couldn't be helped. The situation was there. Jetson's strength was superior, so they had no choice but to lower their heads. Unknowingly, Kevathan's reputation had also established a very high position. However, no matter whether this Yang Ming is here for real or not, we should be prepared to deal with him. Kevathan said, if he is faking it, then it's fine. If he is really here, then we don't have to let him go back. It just so happens that we don't know what to use to threaten Wang Songshan. This time, we are using Yang Ming's life to threaten him. We are not afraid that he will not comply. Yeah, as long as Yang Ming is dead, the so-called engagement of the butterfly family's Miss will be gone. Thomas agreed and said, Wang Songshan can also cooperate with us wholeheartedly and marry Wang Xiaoyan to good. Kevathan, but if you let Yang Ming die, aren't you afraid of offending the butterfly family? Slade hesitated and said. He was not concerned about whether Good could marry Wang Xiaoyan, but the overall interests of the family. In his opinion, it didn't matter whether Wang Songshan's daughter was married or not. This was an insignificant matter. The key question was whether the interests of the Lancer family could be guaranteed. For example, the reaction of the Buffon family. This series of things against Wang Songshan was just for the sake of the family's face. They couldn't get any substantial benefits, so Slade wasn't very concerned about this. At his age, he didn't care much about things like face. The so-called shameless old referred to people like Slade. What did it have to do with him whether Good married Wang Xiaoyan or not? However, he couldn't ignore his son's position as the family master. His son, as the family master, naturally had to protect the Lancer family's face. The family master and elders' thoughts would be slightly different. However, among the 3 elders in the family, only he dared to call Kevathan's name. The reason was none other than that he was Kevathan's father. Father, it doesn't matter. Kevathan explained with a smile, I have already considered this, but Yang Ming is not a member of the butterfly family. His current identity is only Wang Xiaoyan's fiancé. Once he dies, Good will become Wang Xiaoyan's fiancé. Do you think the butterfly family will go against us because of a dead outsider? What the family master said makes sense. Thomas also thought so. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried so hard to facilitate this matter. He was very much in favor of letting Yang Ming die here. Only in this way could the butterfly family completely have no way out. The butterfly family would never go to war with the Lancer family because of someone who didn't belong to the butterfly family. This is not wrong. Yang Ming hasn't officially married Wang Xiaoyan yet, so he can only be regarded as an outsider. If he dies, even if the butterfly family is unhappy, they have no legitimate reason to trouble us. I guess they can only hold their nose and accept it. Slade nodded. Hee, a reason to trouble us. At this time, Jetson smiled coldly. In the face of absolute strength, any reason is pale. My strength to trouble you is a reason. Cousin Jetson is right. In the face of Cousin Jetson's absolute strength, even if the butterfly family is reasonable, it will become unreasonable. Wang Songshan is probably not a person who doesn't know how to adapt to the situation. He previously had a marriage agreement with the King of Assassins, Fang Tian. He was unwilling to cancel it because of his face. However, once Yang Ming dies, will he still dare to shirk? Kevithan agreed and said, Cousin Jetson, I will leave this Yang Ming to you. If he wants to come, it will be tonight. Heh, he's just a clown. Jetson responded indifferently, if it weren't for leaving him alive, Wang Songshan would have already become a corpse. Is this Yang Ming more powerful than Wang Songshan? That's definitely not the case, but you have to be careful, cousin. Don't let this kid run away. Kevithan was afraid that Jetson would be careless, so he reminded him. No one has been able to escape from my hands. Jetson said casually, but this was just to fool Kevithan and the other members of the Lancer family. It was definitely a joke to put it in the center. What's more, this was only his first time making a move. His only enemy was Wang Songshan, so he really couldn't escape. Prepare a celebration banquet for me. When I kill this kid, let's celebrate. However, Kevithan and the other members of the Lancer family believed it and nodded. Don't worry, cousin. I'll tell the kitchen to prepare it. In fact, Jetson didn't need to eat anything anymore. It would be a waste even if he ate. He was just pretending. However, he had been living in the Lancer family for the past few days. In order not to let Kevithan discover his secrets and abnormalities, he had to do as the Romans did and eat and drink. Is this the Lancer family? Yang Ming looked at a manor not far away in front of him, and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. This magnificent 100-year-old manor, Yang Ming didn't directly sneak into the Lancer family, nor did he grab the Lancer family's children to ask. Instead, he sat down in a small bar a few kilometers away from the manor and looked out the window quietly. If someone didn't know better, they would think that Yang Ming was looking at the scenery outside the window. However, Yang Ming was indeed looking at every movement inside the Lancer family a few kilometers away. This was why Yang Ming dared to go alone. He could use his special ability to detect some movements and terrain inside the Lancer family in advance, as well as whether there were masters in the Lancer family. Yang Ming certainly wouldn't be reckless for this operation. Even Wang Songshan could be trapped in the enemy camp. Yang Ming didn't think that he was very capable. The saying that the enemy would surrender under his feet with a shake of the tiger's body was whimsical no matter how he thought about it. It turns out to be this guy named Jetson. Yang Ming naturally saw the scene in the Lancer family's conference room. Several people in the Lancer family were talking about his life and death. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to take my life, right? Yang Ming was not a magnanimous person. On the contrary, he was even a little vengeful. Since this Jetson wanted to keep him, how could he let him go? Therefore, Yang Ming decided that as long as there was a chance this time, he would kill Jetson to avoid endless future troubles. Chapter 1483. Looking at this group of arrogant people talking and laughing as if the Yang Ming they were talking about had become a dead man, Yang Ming smiled coldly. He didn't despise these people, but he felt that these people were too arrogant. Even if they were sure of winning, there was no need to be like this. Only by keeping a vigilant heart at all times could one live to 100 years old. Otherwise, it was not certain who would win. Yang Ming was not in the mood to continue investigating what these people were talking about. Jetson seemed to be very confident in himself. He didn't mention the killing plan at night at all. Instead, he was flattered by the Lancer family's group. Shifting his gaze, Yang Ming began to search for Wang Songshan's figure. Yang Ming was sure that there was a 90% chance that Wang Songshan was trapped in the Lancer family. Yang Ming searched very carefully. Yang Ming had almost looked at every inch of the Lancer family's manor several times. This was because while Yang Ming was looking for Wang Songshan, he was also exploring the terrain of the Lancer family's manor. Yang Ming was not as arrogant as Jetson. If he couldn't win, Yang Ming had to find the best escape route. After Yang Ming's careful investigation, he was afraid that even the people who had lived in the Lancer family's manor for many years were not as familiar with the terrain as Yang Ming. This was because there were many places that some people in the Lancer family could not go, such as the kitchen, the warehouse, the boiler room, the laundry room, and other places where the servants worked. The Lancer family's higher-ups were unwilling to go to these places personally. It was even more impossible for Jetson, who had appeared out of nowhere, to go there. Therefore, these very remote places were the foundation of Yang Ming's survival. Uncle Wang is fine. It seems that I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. When Yang Ming saw that Wang Songshan was imprisoned in a small independent attic, Yang Ming nodded heavily. Fortunately, otherwise, Yan Yan would be disappointed this time. Yang Ming closed his eyes, began to recall the terrain of the Lancer family's manor, and thought about the plan for tonight's action. Although he knew that Jetson was already prepared, Yang Ming still had to act. What's more, Yang Ming's killing intent had risen at this moment. Even if he could save Wang Songshan quietly, Jetson could not be left alive. Otherwise, he would always be a big threat to himself and the Butterfly family. Yang Ming reached out to call the waiter, paid the bill, then stood up, turned, and left the small bar. The bar was still noisy. No one knew what Yang Ming was here for, and no one paid attention to him. Standing on the street, Yang Ming reached out and stopped a taxi. He then said to the driver, "Go to Lancer Manor." The driver readily agreed. Many poor children from nearby families worked in the Lancer family, so there were often servants from the Lancer family traveling between the town and the Lancer Manor. "Sir, the car can only stop here. In front is the Lancer family's private territory. We can't drive in." The taxi driver stopped the car under a warning sign on the road, pointed to the text on it and said to Yang Ming. Yang Ming glanced at the warning sign. It said nothing more than that in front was the Lancer family's private territory, and no one was allowed to enter without permission, etc. Yang Ming paid the fare quickly. He didn't say much, got out of the car, and walked alone in the direction of the Lancer family's manor. Yang Ming had a clear idea of the plan at this moment, so he was not afraid of confronting Jetson head-on. When Yang Ming was walking, he didn't deliberately avoid anyone because there was no place to hide on this road. If he encountered a stranger, then he could only let him rest here. However, he didn't know if it was a coincidence or if no one from the Lancer family came out at all during this time. Yang Ming did not see anyone on this road, and he smoothly arrived outside the Lancer family's manor. Yang Ming had already found a way and location to sneak into the manor when he was in the bar. At this time, he stood outside the manor just to explore the movement inside again. However, the situation of this exploration was similar to the previous one. There were still many guards guarding outside the attic where Wang Songshan was imprisoned. The difference was that a person was sitting in a small pavilion nearby. This person was the person named Jetson that Yang Ming had seen in the Lancer family's conference room. He was the cousin of the current family master of the Lancer family, Kevithan. April is a very cold season in Europe. The temperature difference between day and night is very large. This should be the coldest time. This person is just sitting in the pavilion. Isn't he cold? Yang Ming was very surprised and impressed because this person was wearing a very thin shirt. It seemed that the Lancer family was ready to deal with it. They knew that the purpose of their visit this time was to rescue Wang Songshan, so Jetson simply sat directly at the door of Wang Songshan's imprisonment. Yang Ming sneered. This Jetson is really arrogant to a certain extent. Isn't he sitting here publicly announcing to others that Wang Songshan is imprisoned in the attic next to him? Of course, Yang Ming had special abilities. He didn't need Jetson to do anything. Yang Ming already knew where Wang Songshan was imprisoned. If it was someone without special abilities, it would not be so easy to find out. Jetson's approach just happened to be a beacon of light. However, what Yang Ming didn't expect was that Jetson was not arrogant, but had already arranged it in advance. Just like the plan against Wang Songshan last time, he had informed all the family's children and servants in advance. As long as Yang Ming came to capture them, they would tell the truth about the location of Wang Songshan's imprisonment. This was also a strategy to allow Yang Ming to directly walk into the trap. Jetson didn't have to always be on guard against Yang Ming appearing elsewhere. He just had to wait here. However, how could Yang Ming let Jetson do as he wished? Since Jetson was waiting at Wang Songshan's place, he would let him wait first. Yang Ming didn't forget what he had said before, which was to teach Good a lesson. Therefore, the first thing Yang Ming did when he came this time was to go to Good's residence. Therefore, when everyone thought that Yang Ming would look for Wang Songshan's residence first, Yang Ming did the opposite and slipped to Good's residence first. With the lesson of Wang Songshan killing a few disciples before, the people of the Lancer family had also learned to be smart this time. They gave the servants and children walking back and forth in the manor at night an alarm on their fingers. They were instructed to press the alarm as soon as they saw Yang Ming, and the meeting room would immediately locate his location so that Jetson could be prepared and avoid unnecessary accidents. However, Yang Ming had no intention of finding trouble with those children and servants at all. Yang Ming didn't need to know anything from them. Yang Ming had already finished exploring with his special ability beforehand. At this time, it was too late to hide from the people inside the Lancer family. Since no one had discovered him along the way, Yang Ming was more careful at the moment. However, with his special ability of X-ray vision and night vision, Yang Ming easily avoided the children walking back and forth and the manor's patrol guards. As for the cameras in some blind spots, Yang Ming also bypassed them easily. Yang Ming was very experienced in dealing with these cameras. Previously, in the Immortal Building in Mount Jing, Yang Ming had already figured out the rules, so this time was no exception. While looking at the screen in the monitoring room, he easily bypassed the surveillance cameras according to the time difference between the screen switching. Good had been very proud these 2 days. After being nervous for a few days, Good felt that he could finally rest easy when he saw Jetson easily capture Wang Songshan alive. He was especially happy when he heard that Jetson was very supportive of him marrying Butterfly Wang. Tonight, it was even more so because Good had also received news that Butterfly Wang's fiancé, Yang Ming, might come to rescue Yang Ming. Jetson was waiting to kill Yang Ming in one fell swoop. Therefore, Good began to dance excitedly when he thought that Yang Ming was about to die tonight and that Butterfly Wang could throw herself into his arms without any obstacles. Chapter 1484. How dare you threaten me? Let's see who dies first this time. Good's eyes were full of anticipation and excitement. He never thought that things would be so complicated this time. However, this ending was still very satisfactory. In the beginning, after he was humiliated by the Butterfly family, he came to his grandfather's Lancer family in high spirits, hoping that his grandfather could help him vent his anger. His grandfather had indeed helped him create a huge problem for the Butterfly family. He had unilaterally cut off the cooperation and supply relationship of the arms business. This made the Butterfly family as anxious as ants on a hot pan. However, Good times did not last long. Just when Good thought that the Butterfly family would eventually compromise and marry Butterfly Wang to him, the Butterfly family somehow got involved with the Buffon family, who was the arms supplier behind the Lancer family. This was great. They had offended the Buffon family, and the Buffon family retaliated by directly stopping the arms supply to the Lancer family. This made the Lancer family, who originally had victory in hand, dumbfounded. Wasn't this change too fast? In an instant, the positions of the Lancer family and the Butterfly family had a fundamental change. The Lancer family was in a predicament, and the Butterfly family easily turned from weak to strong. They even threatened to take Good's head. This made Good scared out of his wits. He was afraid that the Lancer family would give him up for the family's interests. Although Good was the grandson of the current family master of the Lancer family, Good was also a member of a big family. He knew the rules of a big family. That was, the family's interests came first in all matters. Sacrificing oneself for the greater good was a common method used by big families. Therefore, Good was not sure whether the Lancer family would hand him over in the end. Although his grandfather, Thomas, was the current family master, it should be known that the family master was not the only one who had a say in a family. All the elders also had a very high right to speak. They could even join forces to deny some of the family master's decisions. This made Good fall into a panic all day long. In the end, his grandfather saved his life at the cost of giving up the position of the family master. This made Good feel grateful, but he was also worried. He hated Wang Songshan and the others to the bone. Good was not stupid. Although his grandfather had exchanged the family master's position to save his life, who knew if the new family master would renege on the debt after taking office? At that time, there would be no other way. However, just as Good was terrified, a great piece of good news came from the entire Lancer family. The cousin of the new head of the family, Kevithan, was here. Moreover, he is a person who came out of the mysterious Central. It is said that his martial arts are superb. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, Grandpa was on the spot and witnessed Jetson smashing the large marble conference table with one palm. Moreover, Good also went to the conference room afterward. Good couldn't help but click his tongue and he saw that the hard marble had turned into fragments. What kind of power is this? Was he still human? Good was relieved to see that the Lancer family had finally found a big backer. However, he was still a little nervous. Would the Butterfly family be afraid of Uncle Jetson? Moreover, the Butterfly family seemed to specialize in assassins, so Good was really afraid that the Butterfly family would assassinate him. Just as he was worried, Uncle Jetson actually took the initiative to offer to stay in the same room with him. This made Good extremely relieved. What was there to be afraid of as long as this great master was in charge? Sure enough, Wang Songshan was beaten to a pulp by Uncle Jetson that night. Wang Songshan was the leader of the assassin family, but he didn't even have the power to fight back in front of Uncle Jetson. He could only run away. But even if he ran away, he couldn't escape from Uncle Jetson's hands. In the end, he obediently allowed himself to be captured. This made Good's self-confidence inflate to the extreme. He even forgot the fact that he was still a member of the Douglas family. During this time, he regarded himself as a member of the Lancer family. This was because it was inevitable that the Lancer family would become an awesome existence in the upper-class society in the future. With such a backer, it wouldn't be justifiable if they didn't rise up. Good's mouth flashed a lascivious smile when he thought that he would be able to marry Butterfly Wang in a few days. However, he cursed in his heart. I don't know if the fiancé named Yang Ming has slept with Butterfly Wang. Although Good had played with more than 100 women, he still didn't want his woman to be tainted by others. At this time, he had already regarded Butterfly Wang as his woman. It could be seen how much his arrogance and self-esteem had inflated. However, it doesn't matter. Tonight, Yang Ming will become a dead man. Why should I care about a dead man? Good muttered to himself and shook his head. He was somewhat proud of himself. Unfortunately, I can't be sure if I will become a dead man, but you will become a dead man. A cold voice sounded, causing the arrogant Good to jump in fright. Who? Who is it? Who is talking? Good subconsciously wanted to get the alarm, but because he was in the room, he didn't hold the alarm in his hand. When he was dancing just now, he threw the alarm on the bed beside him. At this moment, he was anxious, but he couldn't find it. However, he didn't have the chance to look for it. Good only felt a slight pain in his neck as if something needle-like had pierced it. But before he could understand what was going on, He lay straight on the bed as if he had fallen asleep. I wanted to torture you for a while, but time is running out, so I'll just let you die. The person who came was Yang Ming. Seeing Good talking to himself like a lunatic, Yang Ming was completely speechless. You want me to die with such strength? If Jetson said this, Yang Ming wouldn't be surprised, but this Good, if it weren't for the fact that he didn't have time to deal with this guy now, Yang Ming really wanted to beat him up and then kill him. It's a waste of a flying needle. Yang Ming looked at Good's body and said with slight regret, it's a waste to use it on this kind of person. Although this material is not rare, it's not much either. Yang Ming shook his head and slowly retreated from Good's residence. The next stop was the place where Wang Songshan was imprisoned. It was inevitable that he would meet Jetson there. Yang Ming didn't have any confidence in facing the enemy head-on. He could only take one step at a time. Good's death didn't cause any waves. Even the Lancer family didn't know that Good had died because Kevithan had deliberately sent a GPS location alarm to everyone in the family. After a situation was triggered, they could immediately find the location of the alarm in the monitoring room and then respond. Good was simply arrogant to a certain extent. He was completely different from his previous fear and caution. After witnessing Jetson's strength, he became a little unscrupulous. In his opinion, no matter how many enemies came, they were not Jetson's opponents, so he casually threw the alarm on the bed. He didn't expect that he couldn't trigger it even when he was about to die. However, Yang Ming wasn't worried about this. Even if Good triggered the alarm, Yang Ming would still kill Good without hesitation. He might even torture Good for a while without scruples and wait for Jetson to come to him. Originally, Yang Ming was also mentally prepared to face the enemy head-on. After killing Good, Yang Ming had no scruples. It was the same whether he went to Jetson or Jetson came to him. Because he was very familiar with the interior terrain of the manor, Yang Ming quickly rushed to Jetson's location. Although his footsteps were light, Jetson still felt it when he was about 100 meters away. Jetson's hearing was extremely sensitive, which was why he was able to discover Wang Songshan in advance last time. It's Yang Ming, right? Jetson spoke, you're finally here. I didn't wait in vain. Chapter 1485. Yang Ming felt a chill in his heart. He was very surprised by Jetson's keen senses. Yang Ming was an assassin. Although his footsteps were not as good as Wang Xiaoyan's family's secret technique, butterfly micro-steps, it was still superb. Yang Ming could even pass through the grass without alerting a bird, but Jetson had sensed it here. This made Yang Ming sigh with some regret in his heart. I wanted to try to sneak attack Jetson, but now it seems impossible. This Jetson really can't be underestimated. I won't let you wait in vain. Since he had been discovered by the other party, Yang Ming naturally didn't intend to hide it. He walked out from the trees that were hidden by the side. You are Jetson, right? Kevithan's cousin? You're quite well informed. Jetson didn't admit it, but he didn't deny it either. He snorted coldly as if he disdained to talk to Yang Ming. Tell me about your background. Looking at your skills, you don't look like a nobody. Yang Ming said lightly, do you really want to stand up for the Lancer family? Naturally, there is no need to tell you my background. Jetson smiled coldly, tonight, you will become a victim. You won't leave here alive, so there is no point in telling you this. Hee, since you are so sure that I will become a dead person, it's okay to talk about it. You should at least let me know when I die, right? Yang Ming smiled faintly as if he didn't care about life and death at all. Kid, you don't have to find something to talk about, and you don't have to think about unrealistic things. Do you want to know my background? Jetson looked at Yang Ming blankly, but, it's okay to tell you. The fact that Jetson came from Central was not a secret, so there was no need for Jetson to hide it. Since Yang Ming wanted to know, then it was okay to talk about it. In Jetson's eyes, Yang Ming had become a dead person. It was good to let him know when he died. Yang Ming nodded slightly and motioned for Jetson to continue. Yang Ming naturally wouldn't refuse to know some of the enemy's details. However, Yang Ming was also always on guard against Jetson's sudden attack. After all, the two sides were in a hostile state. How could there be any trust in what was said? If Jetson suddenly launched an attack when Yang Ming was caught off guard, it would be hard to say what would happen. However, Jetson didn't seem to have this intention at all. Was he too arrogant? He wasn't afraid that Yang Ming would escape or suddenly attack. Or was he just a gentleman who would tell the truth? Kid, listen carefully. I come from Central, a mysterious place that you can't imagine at all. If you die, no one will avenge you. Of course, no one will dare to avenge you and offend Central's people. Humph. When Jetson said the word Central, a look of reverence suddenly appeared in his eyes. Central? Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He had never heard of this place and didn't know what this place did. Is it an organization or institution? It sounds like it. Central? Is it very powerful? Yang Ming asked indifferently. Ignorant person. Jetson shook his head. It seemed that he disdained to explain anything to Yang Ming. Die. If you didn't come here, I wouldn't be able to attack ordinary people that will do to the rules of Central. But since you sent yourself to me, Yang Ming's heart shuddered. He suddenly raised his attention to the peak. Jetson was going to attack. Yang Ming couldn't not be on guard. However, Yang Ming heard a message from Jetson's words. That was, Central's people didn't seem to be able to take the initiative to attack others. This made Yang Ming feel relieved in his heart. Although Yang Ming didn't know what Central was, since it was an organization, there must be a lot of people. If he really killed Jetson today, it would be really difficult for him to deal with if a lot of Jetsons ran out from Central. Not only that, but the Butterfly family and the Buffon family would become such a big enemy in the future. It could be said that there would be endless troubles in the future. But since Jetson said so, Yang Ming was relieved. A flying needle was clasped in the palm of his hand. This was Yang Ming's tried and tested assassination method. Even if he faced the enemy head-on, Yang Ming was confident that he could make the enemy suffer a hidden loss. After all, the current world was not like ancient times. How could there be so many hidden weapons? Nowadays, the most important thing to be wary of in a fight was guns, guarding against the opponent's sudden attack with a gun. No one would have thought that there would be people in this world who could hurt people with flying needles. This was also one of Yang Ming's trump cards. The reason why he dared to come here and face Jetson head-on was because he had a flying needle in hand. Yang Ming was 100% sure that he could hit Jetson. As for whether Jetson could be killed in one blow, Yang Ming couldn't guarantee, but it shouldn't be easy for him. Therefore, when Jetson's figure suddenly moved and stood up from the pavilion seat, Yang Ming had already calculated where Jetson's neck would move next. A flying needle flew out of his hand and shot directly at Jetson. Humph. The flying needle shot at Jetson's neck, but it didn't penetrate his skin. Jetson casually pushed it aside and threw it to the ground. What the hell is this? A mosquito? Jetson, is he actually fine? Yang Ming saw clearly that the flying needle had hit Jetson. He was complacent in his heart because he had hit Jetson effortlessly. However, the result was beyond his expectations. The flying needle didn't hurt Jetson at all. It didn't even scratch his skin. Is there some kind of protective measure on this person's neck? However, Yang Ming didn't have time to think about it. Jetson had already gotten up and charged at Yang Ming. A pair of giant hands grabbed at Yang Ming fiercely. A look of doubt flashed in Yang Ming's eyes. Isn't this Jetson a martial arts master? How can this be? Although Jetson's speed and strength are very fierce, he just rushed over without any tricks. His whole body is full of flaws. How can such a person capture Wang Songzhan alive? This made Yang Ming feel very inconceivable. Bang! Although Yang Ming felt that it was inconceivable, he still kicked Jetson's lower abdomen. This was one of the weak spots on the human body. Whether it was a man or a woman, once this spot was hit hard, it wouldn't be easy. Therefore, Yang Ming believed that it was impossible for Jetson not to dodge. Yang Ming had already thought of a follow-up move while dodging. Hiss. Yang Ming's foot hit Jetson's lower abdomen, but a painful groan came from Yang Ming's mouth. Is there something on Jetson's abdomen? How can it be so hard? Yang Ming felt like he had kicked a big stone and almost fractured his foot. However, this was not enough to surprise Yang Ming. What was even more surprising was that Jetson didn't seem to feel anything. His hands still continued to grab at Yang Ming. Apart from a trace of ridicule on his expression, there was no painful expression after being hit. This accident made Yang Ming suddenly shocked because Jetson didn't go back to defend his lower abdomen. After being hit, he didn't show any painful reaction. Instead, he still rushed over at his original speed. This made the follow-up move that Yang Ming had prepared completely useless. He couldn't use it at all. Thinking of this, Yang Ming's upper body bent backward abruptly, and his whole body arched. However, even so, he still couldn't completely avoid Jetson's blow. Rip, Yang Ming's shirt was grabbed by Jetson, and he tore it apart. Yang Ming's head was covered in cold sweat. If he had grabbed my shoulder, wouldn't he have torn off my flesh? Or even my scapula might have been broken. How can this person be so strong? While Yang Ming was thinking about this, he used his hands to support himself on the ground. His feet also left the ground at the same time, and he kicked hard at Jetson. At this moment, Jetson's upper body was tilted, maintaining the momentum of attacking Yang Ming. Therefore, Yang Ming's feet directly kicked Jetson's face. This kick almost used up all of Yang Ming's strength. Yang Ming was confident that even a powerful person would be seriously injured at this moment. It was very likely that his head would be kicked away. Chapter 1486. Yang Ming had noticed that something was wrong before. His kick to Jetson's lower abdomen was very heavy. It was not something that ordinary people could bear. Yang Ming asked himself. Even if he was hit by such a strong force, he would probably end up seriously injured. However, Jetson did not seem to have suffered any damage. Yang Ming's kick did not even cause a pause in Jetson's movements. It was as if this kick was not on Jetson's body at all, but on someone else's body. Yang Ming's kick did not even cause a pause in Jetson's movements. Yang Ming had no time to think about the reason, so he kicked a second time in a dangerous situation. If this kick was solid, Yang Ming did not believe that Jetson would not have suffered any damage. Bang! Yang Ming's 2 feet kicked Jetson's face at the same time. Yang Ming could even imagine the scene of Jetson's nose bleeding. Because the bridge of the nose was one of the most fragile bones in the human body, it was impossible not to be injured under a heavy blow. However, Yang Ming had learned his previous lesson. After this kick, his body quickly used the force of stepping on Jetson's face to do a backflip and landed firmly on the ground 10 feet away. Yang Ming had just stabilized his feet, but he was shocked to find that Jetson was still attacking him at a very fast speed. His kick still did not seem to cause any damage to him. On Jetson's face, there were 2 obvious footprints, but there were no bruises. There was also no nosebleed as Yang Ming had imagined. It seemed that Yang Ming had kicked an iron plate. Yang Ming's expression suddenly changed again. Could it be that this Jetson is? Thinking of this, Yang Ming couldn't help but think of Tian Long. He had once fought with Tian Long, the successor of the Shaolin Temple's Golden Bell Shield. So, Yang Ming couldn't help but association. Could this person named Jetson also practice a similar technique? It must be known that the Golden Bell Shield was not only available in China's Shaolin Temple. There were also some similar external techniques in some other countries. It was not surprising that Jetson had learned something similar. The key problem was that this guy seemed to be a bit stronger than Tian Long. When he fought with Tian Long, although Tian Long was also invulnerable, it was only after he used his technique and entered a temporary berserk state. This Jetson didn't seem to be using any technique, but he was directly invulnerable. Moreover, although Tian Long's martial arts were excellent, he would still react when Yang Ming hit him. Although it did not cause any damage, he was still a flesh and blood body after all. However, this Jetson in front of him didn't seem to regard this body as his own at all. No matter how Yang Ming hit him, he didn't seem to feel anything. Seeing that Jetson was about to rush to his side, Yang Ming's heart tightened and he quickly retreated. However, he regretfully found that Jetson's speed seemed to be a bit faster than his own. This made Yang Ming feel a long-lost fear in his heart. It had been a long time since he had this feeling. Since Yang Ming became the successor of the King of Assassins, he had embarked on a rapidly growing path and slowly walked to the peak of life. Although there were constant dangers and enemies around him, Yang Ming had never been so frightened. At this moment, the pressure Jetson gave him came from the kind of oppression between life and death, which made Yang Ming feel breathless. What kind of martial arts are you practicing? Is it an external defensive technique? Yang Ming's figure retreated quickly as he asked in surprise. External martial arts of thwart training? Jetson sneered a few times after hearing this, but he didn't answer Yang Ming's question. He didn't deny nor confirm, but his speed didn't slow down at all. Yang Ming frowned. He didn't know what Jetson meant, but since he had such an ambiguous attitude, Yang Ming somewhat believed that Jetson really practiced some kind of external martial arts. Thinking of this, Yang Ming gritted his teeth. While retreating, he began to use his X-ray vision to look for Jetson's weak point. Since Tian Long had a weak point, it meant that Jetson should have the same weak point. This was the weakness of external martial arts. It wasn't something that anyone could change. It was just that the position of each person's weak point was different. Therefore, even though many people knew this, it was still extremely difficult to find the weak spot of the opponent. Most likely, they would be killed by the opponent before they could find it. This was also the reason why many people still rushed to practice this kind of defensive technique even though they knew that it had such a flaw. Now, Yang Ming had understood why Wang Songshan was captured here. Even if there were two Wang Songshans, they wouldn't be a match for such an abnormal guy. For a guy like Jetson, who was invulnerable and didn't react no matter how he was hit, Wang Songshan would still be helpless even if he had 180 methods. However, since Yang Ming had figured out Jetson's abnormality and his defensive technique, he wasn't so worried. As long as he could find a way to stall for time and find Jetson's weak point, he could kill Jetson in one fell swoop. Thinking of this, Yang Ming began to scan Jetson's body. However, at first glance, Yang Ming almost lost his balance and sat on the ground. This was because the internal structure of Jetson's body was fundamentally different from that of a normal person. He was not a person, but a machine. Inside Jetson's body, there were a lot of sophisticated electronic components. Yang Ming almost screamed out in horror. Fortunately, Yang Ming's psychological quality was very strong, otherwise, Jetson would have almost caught up with him. Fuck. Yang Ming really wanted to curse at the sky. Isn't this too fucking evil? This time, he had actually encountered a robot. No wonder Jetson is so resistant and invulnerable. Yang Ming couldn't help but smile bitterly. Is a robot afraid of being hit? Kevathan's cousin is actually a robot. What kind of logic is this? And what kind of organization was the Central? How can they make such a sophisticated robot? Isn't this a bit too heaven-defying? However, thinking about the magical glasses on his body, Yang Ming guessed that it was also a heaven-defying high-tech product. It was even 100 times better than the robot in front of him. Thinking of this, Yang Ming was not so surprised. After all, there were too many capable people in this world, and he couldn't know all of them. Therefore, apart from being surprised by Jetson's body structure, Yang Ming fell into contemplation. Previously, he wanted to defeat Jetson by looking for his weak point, but now it seemed that this wouldn't work at all. Do you expect a machine to have a weak point? Isn't that a joke? Can a machine and a human be equal? Yang Ming was even a little desperate at this moment. If his opponent was a human, then Yang Ming would have some confidence to win. But now he was facing a non-human. No matter how capable Yang Ming was, he couldn't do anything. This kind of thing couldn't be killed or damaged, which gave Yang Ming a headache. All the assassination methods in the past were useless. Even if Yang Ming wanted to give up the idea of killing Jetson, it was probably impossible. This time, whether he could escape or not was another matter. Jetson's speed was too fast, beyond Yang Ming's imagination. However, it was natural for a robot to be faster. It was just that this was the first time Yang Ming had encountered such a situation in his life. Are you a robot? How can you have a human's mind? Are you Kevithan's cousin? Have you been transformed by Central? The idea of escaping from this place rose in Yang Ming's heart. Although saving Wang Songshan was very important, if he left this place alone, Wang Songshan would probably never be able to return. At that time, Wang Xiaoyan would definitely be very sad. But compared to that, his own life was more important. Yang Ming was not a reckless man. It was simply stupid to continue to fight desperately when he knew that he was no match for Jetson. So, when Yang Ming had the thought of retreating in his heart, he suddenly asked a series of tricky and strange questions. Oh. Just as Yang Ming expected, Jetson's figure stagnated. Even though he was a robot, Jetson's heart couldn't calm down after Yang Ming exposed his biggest secret. After all, his mind was still that of the previous Jetson, but his body had been transformed into a machine. This secret was only known by Central's people. No one in the Lancer family, including Kevithan, knew. So, how did this person named Yang Ming know? Chapter 1487. Yang Ming was overjoyed when he saw that Jetson was indeed affected by his words. Yang Ming's original intention was to let Jetson be affected by his question. As long as he could stall for a short moment, Yang Ming was confident that he could escape from this place. Kid, how did you know? Jetson's expression suddenly became gloomy and uncertain. The speed of his attack on Yang Ming also slowed down. Although he was still chasing after Yang Ming, he did not attack again. Jetson didn't intend to let Yang Ming go. He held back at this moment because he wanted to figure out how Yang Ming knew his secret. This was a secret that he had never told anyone. This was Central's first-class secret, and Jetson was not allowed to reveal it. Even to Falcon, who was about to assist him, Jetson was not allowed to tell his identity truthfully. Therefore, when Yang Ming suddenly revealed Jetson's secret, Jetson was shocked and angry. He wanted to quickly silence Yang Ming on the spot, but he didn't know how Yang Ming got this information. If he killed Yang Ming, wouldn't he cut off the source of the information? Jetson wanted to figure out where Yang Ming got this information, or how Yang Ming found this flaw. If Yang Ming heard it from someone else, then Jetson didn't mind killing the person who told Yang Ming. In order to keep Central's secret, it was not against the rules to take the initiative to kill a person. If Yang Ming discovered this secret himself, then Jetson would also ask Yang Ming how he found out and what flaws he had. He must ask clearly and then destroy this flaw to avoid similar troubles in the future. Hehe, do you really want to know? Yang Ming found a way out when Jetson hesitated. His figure moved and quickly ran in the opposite direction from before. He said while running, if you want to know, catch me first. Kid, you're courting death. Seeing Yang Ming escape quickly while he was relaxed, Jetson was extremely angry, but he didn't dare to kill Yang Ming directly. He could only follow behind Yang Ming, wanting to catch him and ask him. The road Yang Ming took was an abandoned path leading to the backyard of the Lancer family's manor. This road should have been abandoned many years ago because the left and right sides of this road were full of abandoned steel, wooden planks, and some sundries. This road was almost full of obstacles. Not to mention that it was now night. Even if it was daytime, one might not be able to walk too fast without touching these things. However, Yang Ming relied on the terrain he had scouted outside the manor and his special ability to see at night. His figure shuttled through these wastes like a loach. Jetson naturally couldn't do it. Although he was a robot, he didn't have Yang Ming's special ability to see through things. Especially in this kind of night where visibility was very low, Jetson couldn't dodge left and right like Yang Ming. Jetson inevitably touched the things around him, directly hindering his forward speed. Jetson didn't walk far before he found that he had been tricked by Yang Ming. Originally, Jetson thought that Yang Ming was simply courting death by choosing this kind of road full of obstacles to escape. However, he didn't expect that Yang Ming's figure would dodge left and right with unusual dexterity. Even the corners of his clothes didn't touch these waists. Jetson knew that he had been fooled. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming did this, Yang Ming did do it. Jetson saw that the distance between Yang Ming and himself seemed to have increased again. He was anxious and didn't care about anything else. He simply didn't dodge and directly crashed into the wastes. He was like a tank that was clearing the way. The wastes flew everywhere, but he didn't suffer any damage. However, in the case of Jetson's brute force, the distance between him and Yang Ming was abruptly shortened by a lot. Yang Ming wiped the sweat on his head and scolded Jetson in his heart. "This Jetson is really too fierce. It seems that my escape plan can't be realized. If this continues, I'm afraid I still can't escape from Jetson's palm." Yang Ming's heart was burning with anxiety. He ran while thinking about the next step of the plan. Yang Ming had to admit that this was the most embarrassing and miserable action he had ever taken since his debut. He was actually forced by the enemy to the point where he couldn't escape and even had the possibility of losing his life here. Looking at Jetson chasing behind him like a mad dog, Yang Ming's mind quickly ran through several countermeasures, but they were quickly rejected by Yang Ming. With Jetson's speed, it was probably impossible for Yang Ming to escape like this. Even if Yang Ming could outrun him and always find some extremely difficult paths with his special ability, he was still a human after all. There would always be times when he would be tired, but the other party was a machine. If this continued, he would always be able to catch Yang Ming. So, it seemed that there was only one possibility today, and that was to fight to the death. Yang Ming also saw that as long as he didn't get rid of Jetson, he had no way to survive at all. He couldn't even think about escaping. However, how difficult would it be to get rid of Jetson? The key was that Yang Ming's ability was there. It was simply unrealistic to get rid of Jetson. Yang Ming didn't expect Jetson to be unlucky and suddenly die for no reason. Unlucky and die? Yang Ming thought of this and suddenly thought of something. "I'm afraid that it's impossible to kill Jetson with my current ability. However, what if he dies by himself? It would be a good idea to let Jetson die by himself." Although he was fantasizing about this in his heart, Yang Ming's legs didn't relax at all. He still ran forward crazily. Suddenly, Yang Ming saw a place not far away, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Isn't the opportunity right in front of me? Success or failure may depend on this move. I hope that this Jetson's IQ isn't so high." Since he had made up his mind, Yang Ming didn't dare to neglect his legs. He frantically ran toward the destination in front of him. The obstacles in front of him were getting fewer and fewer. In the end, they disappeared, turning into an empty space. Jetson, who was behind Yang Ming, was overjoyed when he saw this scene. As long as there were no more eyesores, wouldn't it be easy to catch up to Yang Ming? Yang Ming also seemed to be aware of this point. His footsteps became even faster, as if he was stepping on the wind-fire wheel. Once again, his luck broke out and he ran forward with all his might. In front of Yang Ming, there was an area enclosed by a wall. In a situation where it seemed that there was no way to escape, Yang Ming grabbed the wall with both hands and jumped up forcefully. With a whoosh, he leaped to the other side of the wall. Jetson, who was behind Yang Ming, was shocked when he saw Yang Ming actually jump over the wall. He didn't know what Yang Ming was planning. He was afraid that Yang Ming would suddenly disappear after entering the wall, so he ran faster. He came to the wall that Yang Ming had jumped over and imitated Yang Ming. He grabbed the wall with both hands and wanted to jump in. Whoosh! Jetson also jumped up and jumped into the wall. Seeing that Jetson had also jumped in with him, Yang Ming finally breathed a sigh of relief. A contemptuous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Robots are still not good. There is a difference in IQ between humans. What an idiot. Chapter 1488. At this moment, Yang Ming was lying on the wall like a gecko. His hands were clasped tightly to the gap in the wall, and his feet were also forcefully stepping on a gap. Even so, Yang Ming couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This was because as long as Yang Ming was slightly careless, he could follow in Jetson's footsteps. Below Yang Ming was the burning hot coal. This was where the heating of the entire Lancer family was located. The place surrounded by the wall was the Lancer family's boiler room, and Yang Ming's feet happened to be a vent of the underground boiler. Looking at the bursts of green smoke coming out from the vent under his feet, Yang Ming quickly moved his body to the side with lingering fear and finally landed on the ground next to the vent. Previously, just the billowing hot air coming out of the vent made Yang Ming feel as if his whole body was being roasted. The situation of Jetson, who had fallen in, could be imagined. The burning inside was something like coke, and the burning temperature could reach thousands of degrees Celsius. This was what was used to smelt iron. Jetson, who was mostly composed of metal, could not escape this and directly melted into a pool of molten iron. The trouble was finally solved. Jetson was finally dead, which made Yang Ming breathe a sigh of relief. When Yang Ming ran over previously, he had used his special ability to observe this place, so Yang Ming decided to take a gamble. Even if Jetson had lived in the Lancer family's manor for a while, it was impossible for him to know that this was the location of the burning pool that heated the entire manor. As a distinguished guest of the Lancer family, no one would tell him these things, and there was no need to say these things. No one would have thought that this burning pool would become the place where Jetson died. Therefore, Yang Ming found the location of the vent and remembered the location of a few convex and concave gaps on the wall in advance. He took a risk once. After crossing the wall, he attached himself to the inner side of the wall like a gecko. Jetson didn't know that, so he directly crossed the wall and jumped down, directly ending his life. Before this, Jetson was really not prepared for Yang Ming to play such a trick. In his opinion, Yang Ming was an outsider. It was impossible for him to know the situation in the Lancer family's manor like the back of his hand. Even if he ran into a path full of obstacles, Jetson thought that Yang Ming had randomly chosen such a path. As for Yang Ming nimbly dodging these obstacles, Jetson did not suspect much. He just thought that it was Yang Ming's dexterity. After all, even if he was familiar with the situation in the manor, it was impossible to recite the location of these broken obstacles. Even people who walked in the manor all day could not do this, let alone Yang Ming who suddenly came here. As for running to the open land later, Jetson thought that the path Yang Ming had chosen before was found by accident. Yang Ming had almost no way to escape here, so it was not a special thing for Yang Ming to jump into a wall in a panic. Jetson also jumped in with Yang Ming without any precaution. What was there for Jetson to be afraid of when Yang Ming could jump in? However, at that time, Jetson also noticed that something was wrong when he touched the wall with his hands. Was it because the temperature on the wall was a little higher? After all, there was a vent under the wall. Hot air gushed out from the vent. Even if it was cold at night, he could still feel it. However, Jetson was a robot. His ability to withstand heat was obviously much higher than that of ordinary people, so this heat was nothing in Jetson's eyes. Moreover, he didn't have time to think about it at that time. Yang Ming had already discovered his big secret. His only thought now was to catch Yang Ming, ask the truth of the matter, and finally silence him. Therefore, in such an extremely anxious heart, Jetson really didn't have time to pay attention to the abnormality on the wall. As a result, it was precisely because of this that he ended up in tragedy. Yang Ming came back from behind the wall and heard a faint sound of people coming from not far away. There was also the light of a searchlight. It seemed that the people of the Lancer family had rushed over. The previous fight between Yang Ming and Jetson should have attracted the attention of these people, so they rushed to the scene of the incident. However, after Yang Ming and Jetson had only exchanged a few moves, one started to run while the other started to chase. Their speed was far beyond imagination, and they took a path full of obstacles in the middle of the night. This also caused the people of the Lancer family to be unable to catch up with Yang Ming and Jetson, so they only rushed over now. "Family Master, it's just a clown. You actually came in person." The person leading the team was Thomas. After all, the person Jetson was going to kill this time was directly related to the interests of his grandson, Good. Therefore, Thomas personally volunteered to bring a team of people to Jetson. As for whether this team of people could play any role, Thomas never thought about it. After all, with Jetson's extraordinary strength, he didn't need the help of these people at all. He could completely deal with Yang Ming alone, so the people Thomas brought were just for show. Thomas was rushing in the direction where Yang Ming had escaped with his people. He turned his head and saw the family master, Kevithan, rushing over with his people. Thomas didn't dare to neglect his nephew. After all, he had the super terrifying backing of Jetson, so Thomas could be said to be respectful to Kevithan. Cousin Jetson has shown his prowess. How can I not come and see? Kevithan laughed and said, "I have already instructed the kitchen to prepare a celebration banquet. When the matter here is over, we will have a big celebration. I don't know if we can let the juniors come together during the celebration." Thomas was thinking about his grandson, Good. He believed that Good would be very happy and want to celebrate Yang Ming's death. Of course, this is a joyous day for our Lancer family. You can ask Good to come together. We can also discuss the marriage proposal to Wang Songshan. Kevithan nodded and readily agreed. Now, the family was about to take off, and it was a good time to win people's hearts. Kevithan knew very well that even though his second uncle Thomas was obedient to him now, it was because of his cousin Jetson. With cousin Jetson, everyone in the Lancer family would respect him, but once cousin Jetson left, the situation would probably return to how it was before. Kevithan knew that cousin Jetson couldn't stay here for a long time. When the matter was resolved, it would probably be the day of Jetson's departure. Kevithan didn't believe that Thomas and Leckroft would not rebound at that time. Therefore, if he could win the support of the old family master, Thomas, at this time, he would be able to sit firmly in the position of the family master in the future. After all, this family had been controlled by Thomas for decades, and the forces cultivated in it were not few. If these people could support him, Kevithan would no longer be afraid of Leckroft's disloyalty. Thomas was very happy to hear that Kevithan readily agreed to this matter. After all, no matter what, the final result of this matter was worthy of his grandson. Although he had lost the position of the family master, the position of the family master had always been occupied by the capable. Now that Kevithan could do so many things for the family, the Lancer family would probably rise to a higher level in the future. However, he felt somewhat sorry for his grandson, which Thomas sighed. Nothing could be perfect. There were always gains and losses. "Thank you, Patriarch. I'm really happy for my grandson," Thomas said with a smile. "Uncle Thomas is too polite." Kevithan smiled, "We are all family. Don't say those unconventional words. The Lancer family will get better and better in the future. We will become the first family in the upper-class society. Everyone will look up to us. I believe that this moment will not be too far away." Thomas nodded in agreement. "I believe that the family master will become the greatest family master in the history of the Lancer family." Although Kevithan knew that this was mostly flattery, it was also a happy thing to be able to get the recognition of the previous family master, his second uncle Thomas. Chapter 1489. Uncle Thomas, you must be joking. How can I deserve this honor? On the contrary, in the decades that Uncle Thomas has led the Lancer family, our Lancer family has really changed from a second or third-rate family to a member of the upper class. Kevithan's words were not wrong, because the Lancer family had really accumulated a lot of wealth since the first generation of family master, Thomas. The arms business was getting bigger and bigger, and the family quickly developed and grew. His contributions were indeed indispensable. Thomas was delighted when he heard that Kevithan did not take credit for himself. He said, however, there will always be a day when people are old. Now, it is the world of you young people. If the family master has any instructions in the future, just say it. I, your second uncle, will never refuse if I can do it. Kevithan was overjoyed when he heard Thomas's solemn statement for the first time. It seemed that Thomas really wanted to delegate power, and the forces he cultivated were also expected to be handed over. This also showed that his position as the family master would continue to be stable. Family master, it's not good. It's not good. Something big has happened. A family's inner disciple quickly ran over here, shouting loudly as he ran. Kevithan was very happy at the moment. When he suddenly heard this mournful voice, he immediately frowned. No matter who it was that had destroyed the harmonious and warm atmosphere that had been created with great difficulty, they would not feel good. Especially now that Kevithan had just reached a consensus with Thomas and was about to continue to have a few in-depth conversations, but he was interrupted abruptly. He couldn't help but say angrily, "What nonsense is this? What are you shouting for? What do you mean something big has happened? What big things can happen? The most important thing now is to wait for Cousin Jetson to come back and celebrate together." Yes. The disciple did not dare to contradict Kevithan. He quickly lowered his head and said carefully, "But family master, this subordinate does have something important to report." "Humph, just report. What's the point of yelling?" Kevithan glared at him and said, "Remember, we are members of the Lancer family. The current Lancer family is different from the previous Lancer family. We are now a first-class family. How can we be so unruly?" "Yes, family master." After being reprimanded, the disciple could only bow his head and say carefully, "I'm sorry, family master. I will be more careful in the future, but this matter is really important. That's why this subordinate is so flustered. Humph, with Cousin Jetson here, what can't be dealt with? Is it necessary?" Kevithan was still angry. He snorted sarcastically, and continued, "Okay, what is it? Hurry up and say it." "Master, the servant in charge of the family master Good's daily life has found that Good he." The disciple paused. "What's the matter?" asked Kevithan, the family master of the family master of the family master. "Can't. Seeing that this family disciple is so nervous, it is really possible." Thinking of this, Thomas's heart trembled. He had just expressed goodwill to Kevithan, intending to let Kevithan support Good in the future and let him become the family master of the Douglas family. This way, although he would not be the helmsman of the Lancer family, he could still give Good some support. But now, he didn't see this kid at first glance. Did something really happen? Young Master Good is dead. The disciple was shocked and said hurriedly, "What? What did you say?" Kevithan didn't seem to hear the disciple's words clearly. He widened his eyes and looked at the disciple. However, the nervous look on his face clearly told everyone that he heard the disciple's words, but he just couldn't believe it. Thomas was also shocked at this moment. He grabbed the disciple and asked loudly, "You said that Good is dead? My grandson is dead? Is there a mistake? This is not the time to joke around. Family master, second elder, how would this subordinate dare to joke around? Young Master Good's servant has already called the doctor, but the doctor said that young Master Good had already died." This subordinate hurriedly came to report. The disciple said bitterly, "Good, my grandson." Thomas's voice became shrill, and his eyes became bloodshot. "Tell me, how did Good die? How did he die? This is for no reason. Wasn't he fine before?" "Second elder, please calm down first. This subordinate really doesn't know. According to the doctor who went, young Master Good had no external injuries at all. He couldn't see how he died. It can only be known after a careful examination." The disciple responded carefully. "Tell me the situation at that time in detail." Kevithan didn't care about Good's life or death, but this was a great opportunity to use Good as a bargaining chip to make a good relationship with Thomas. Good died so inexplicably. How could Kevithan not be angry? Isn't this death too timely? Yes. The disciple said, it's like this. Family Master, didn't you order to hold a large celebration banquet after Mr. Jetson's triumphant return? So the servants in the family don't know if Family Master will allow the younger generation in the family to participate, but it is necessary to prepare in advance. So the servant in charge of young Master Good's daily life took the hairstylist to find young Master Good, but no one answered after knocking on the door for a long time. At first, they thought that young Master Good was asleep, so the servant found the old butler, Uncle Salter, and opened the door with the spare key. As a result, they found young Master Good lying motionless on the bed. At first, everyone thought that he was sleeping, but after calling him a few times, there was no movement. So the servant stepped forward and planned to shake young Master Good to wake him up. As a result, when they took a closer look, they found that young Master Good was no longer breathing. At this time, everyone hurriedly asked the doctor to come over. After the doctor's examination, young Master Good has passed away. This is impossible. How is this possible? Thomas suddenly became manic. He waved his hands as if he was crazy. He was killed by someone. He was killed by that young Ming. It must be. It must be like this. Second uncle, please calm down first. Kevithan saw Thomas enter a state of madness and quickly pulled him. Second uncle, that young Ming is being chased by cousin Jetson at the moment. How can he be distracted to assassinate Good? I'm afraid there's something else going on, right? Or maybe, everyone got it wrong? It must be that young Ming went to Good's place first. After killing my grandson, he went to find Jetson. It must be like this. Thomas didn't believe Kevithan's explanation. He shook his head and growled. Second uncle, you also know how strict our family's defense is. How could young Ming sneak to Good's place and kill him without anyone noticing? And no one noticed it along the way. Is this possible? Kevithan said, moreover, so far, we haven't received any news of a disciple being killed. How did young Ming find Good's residence, and how did he bypass the heavy defense to find Good? After Kevithan said this, Thomas calmed down a little. After all, what Kevithan said was very reasonable. How did young Ming find Good? How did he manage to avoid those patrolling guards without making a sound? No. In this case, how did young Ming find Jetson? It stands to reason that he didn't kill any disciple. How did he find the place where Wang Songshan was imprisoned? Thomas was not a stupid person. On the contrary, he was very smart. He immediately thought of the abnormality of the matter. This. When Kevithan heard Thomas's words, he immediately felt that something was wrong. How did Yang Ming know these things? It must be Yang Ming who killed Good. I'm going to tear him into pieces. The more Thomas thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Although he didn't know how Yang Ming did it, it must have been done by Yang Ming when he connected the whole thing. Chapter 1490. Don't worry, second uncle. Yang Ming's death is inevitable. He definitely can't escape from cousin Jetson's palm. Kevithan's heart was also filled with hatred. Now that Good was dead, things had become complicated. He didn't know how to maintain his transaction relationship with Thomas. Of course. I won't let him go even if he dies. Thomas said fiercely, I want to hang his body at the front door of the Lancer family. I want to let people know the consequences of offending our Lancer family. Of course, this is what you should do. Kevithan nodded and did not deny Thomas's suggestion. In this kind of upper-class society, many big families were above the law, especially those like the Lancer family who owned private territories. They had absolute authority to deal with people who trespassed into private territories. Even if it was inhumane to hang the body at the door, no one would come to the Lancer family for this. Especially at this moment, and the Lancer family's strength was unprecedentedly powerful. Who would want to provoke this behemoth at this time? In order to befriend Thomas, Kevithan naturally would not oppose him on these insignificant matters. Kevithan even had the thought of making an example out of Thomas. "Family Master, can you make an exception for Mr. Jetson and let him capture Yang Ming alive? I want to kill this bastard with my own hands and avenge my grandson." "Good." This. Kevithan hesitated. Although it was not very good to interfere with Cousin Jetson at this time, he definitely didn't want to displease Thomas at this moment. Only when Thomas was satisfied and avenged could he sincerely assist him and make his position as the family master more stable. "Patriarch, I'll have to trouble you." "I'll keep my word," Thomas promised fiercely. "Okay." Kevithan sighed, picked up the walkie-talkie in his hand, and pressed a few numbers. It was Jetson's terminal number, and then said, "Cousin Jetson, I'm Kevithan. I have something to trouble you with. Can you capture that Yang Ming alive? I still have use for this person." Kevithan knew that Jetson would definitely give him face. Since Cousin Jetson was able to come back to help him this time, it also explained Cousin Jetson's intentions. Therefore, Kevithan was not worried that Jetson would refuse him, but out of respect, he still asked in a negotiating tone. After Kevithan finished speaking, he quietly waited for Jetson's answer. However, after waiting for a long time, no sound came from the walkie-talkie. "Cousin Jetson? Are you there? Please reply if you hear me," Kevithan said strangely into the walkie-talkie. However, after waiting for a while, there was still no movement from the walkie-talkie. Kevithan suddenly frowned. "Family Master, is Mr. Jetson angry? If this is the case, then I think it's better to forget it." Although Thomas wanted to kill Yang Ming personally, if it was impossible, then forget it. Anyway, no matter how Yang Ming died, he would still die. As long as he avenged his grandson, Thomas wouldn't be so insistent. No, although Cousin Jetson is a very cold and arrogant person, he is not an unreasonable person. If I ask, Cousin Jetson can't refute me too much. Kevithan said, however, looking at the situation now, it seems that Cousin Jetson didn't bring the walkie-talkie terminal with him. Thomas nodded and didn't say anything. Although he was a little upset that he couldn't kill Yang Ming personally, this was the only thing he could do at the moment. "Do you want me to live that much?" At this time, a cold voice came over, making Kevithan and Thomas's heart tremble. "I didn't expect it. It seems that I have fulfilled your wish. Who are you?" Kevithan looked back and forth vigilantly, but he didn't see a person. This voice was very unfamiliar. Kevithan had never heard it before. Moreover, the person who spoke couldn't be a member of the Lancer family. A member of the Lancer family wouldn't speak to him so rudely. "Who am I? Weren't you two talking about me just now? How can you forget so quickly?" The person who spoke was naturally Yang Ming. After Yang Ming killed Jetson with a scheme, he sneaked over to the direction of the voice. As a result, he heard the conversation between Kevithan and Thomas. "You are Yang Ming?" Thomas asked in horror. At the same time, the hatred on his face emerged without concealment. His eyes looked for the direction of the voice, but he couldn't find it at all. "It seems that you two are not very forgetful and know my name," Yang Ming said with a light smile. "Where did Cousin Jetson go? Why didn't he kill this kid?" Kevithan wondered to himself. However, he didn't think that Cousin Jetson would be killed by Yang Ming at all. Instead, he thought that Cousin Jetson should have something important to do at the last minute. Otherwise, why couldn't he be contacted? Pretending to be mysterious, what kind of ability is that? Come out if you have the guts. Thomas didn't take Yang Ming seriously at all. Although Yang Ming could kill Good silently, what kind of skills did Good have? He didn't practice any martial arts at all. The family guards behind him were secretly trained masters, so Thomas was very confident that Yang Ming would definitely stay here as long as he dared to appear. These guards were all trained during his reign, so Thomas was very confident in his heart and spoke very bluntly. He wasn't afraid of Yang Ming at all. "Oh, come out then," Yang Ming said contemptuously, Then he walked out of the dark woods and exposed himself to everyone. Catch him! Thomas waved to the guards behind him, and the people behind him rushed forward and surrounded Yang Ming. Although I know that you are all innocent, who asked you to be the thugs for these people? Yang Ming shook his head and said with some regret, if that's the case, then I'm sorry. Be careful. This kid may be a bit tricky. Although Kevithan didn't think too highly of Yang Ming, he also knew that he was the disciple of the king of assassins, so he didn't dare to be too negligent and reminded him. Family master, he is just a kid. There is no need to be so cautious. Thomas smiled and said, it just so happens that I can kill this kid with my own hands. Kevithan nodded, but his eyes were looking at the field without blinking. These guards were not personally trained by him, but they were trained when Thomas was in power, so Kevithan's confidence in these people was naturally not as strong as Thomas's. Now, if he didn't catch Yang Ming for a moment, he would not relax his vigilance. Yang Ming looked at the group of so-called elites trained by the Lancer family who were full of flaws in front of him, and sighed slightly. Letting these weak people come up is simply courting death. If they were as strong as Jetson, Yang Ming would deal with them carefully. But now, Yang Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He even felt that he couldn't make a move. However, this was not the time for sympathy. Since these people had chosen to join the Lancer family, they were not worthy of sympathy. Pitiful people must have something hateful. Yang Ming casually waved his hand and sealed the acupoints of the people closest to him. These acupoints were one of the fatal acupoints of the human body. Under Yang Ming's attack, these people all fell to the ground silently. They didn't even groan, and they didn't even know how they died. Seeing that Yang Ming had knocked down 7 or 8 people with a wave of his hand, the guards all showed horrified expressions. These days, they had been sent out by Kevithan to find trouble with others, smash other people's shops, and beat up people from other families. These were all their specialties. At this moment, they were thinking of bullying Yang Ming, but they didn't expect the other party to be a tough nut to crack. Before they could make a move, so many people had already been lost on their side. Looking at the teammates who had fought with them, robbed with them, drank with them at night, and played with women with them a few days ago, everyone was moved. Sante, the captain of the guards, gulped bitterly, but he was in a dilemma. The family master had ordered that he couldn't back down at this moment. But isn't this person in front of me too terrifying? Sante only felt that his scalp was about to explode. He knew very well that these people were not the opponent of the person in front of him at all. Going forward was just courting death. Chapter 1491. Since Sante could see the current situation, Kevithan and Thomas could naturally see it too. Although Kevithan had overestimated Yang Ming before and reminded the guards to be careful, he still underestimated Yang Ming's ability. Thomas, on the other hand, was even more terrified. He didn't expect Yang Ming's skill to have become so terrifying. He killed so many people with just a raise of his hand. How fierce is this? Kill him, use guns. Kevithan did not dare to underestimate this time and quickly reminded. After all, these people were the family's security forces. Kevithan's heart was naturally uncomfortable with so many of them dying at once. Save your strength, don't fight him head-on. Thomas also hurriedly reminded. He also didn't want these forces he cultivated to disappear. However, Kevithan and Thomas's words were still a step too late. The remaining few people all died in the span of a breath. Even Sante didn't wait to pull out his pistol and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. If these people used guns from the beginning, Yang Ming would not be hit by these people, but it would take some effort to kill them. At the very least, it would waste some flying needles. At least, it would not be so easy. However, Thomas and Kevithan were too careless before, so they sacrificed all 20 family elites. I'm really sorry. I was too fast and couldn't stop. Yang Ming shrugged and smiled apologetically to Kevithan and Thomas. They died before they could pull out their guns, you. Thomas was furious. This Yang Ming was obviously taking advantage of the situation. He was suddenly shocked and angry. He rushed here in a hurry and did not carry any weapons at all. Although he was very angry, he was afraid that Yang Ming would harm him. However, Kevithan brought guns. As a large family that once supplied firearms, it was not unusual for the Lancer family to have guns. When Thomas spoke, Kevithan was ready to reach for the gun on his body. You'd better not act rashly. Maybe you can live a little longer. Yang Ming had X-ray vision. How could he not see that Kevithan was going to touch the gun on his body? Thus, he reminded him with a cold smile. However, the flying needle also slid into his palm in an instant. He was always vigilant. Sure enough, after being frightened by Yang Ming's words, Kevithan's movements really did stop. He didn't dare to move his hand that was touching his pocket. Live a little longer? You sure talk big, huh? Kevithan snorted coldly and said somewhat guiltily. Yang Ming's previous strange skills had deeply shocked Kevithan's heart, so at this moment, Kevithan was also afraid that Yang Ming would suddenly attack. How arrogant. Why don't you give it a try? Yang Ming said indifferently, right, after the test, you will die. It doesn't matter if you know or not. Yang Ming, don't think that you're so powerful. Kevithan snorted, if Cousin Jetson hadn't left here because he had something to do you think you can still stand here alive? If you know what's good for you, surrender obediently, and I can spare your life. Otherwise, when Cousin Jetson comes back and finds out that you dare to harm me, he will destroy your family and the butterfly family. Don't think that I'm bluffing to scare you. Compared to Wang Songshan, who is more powerful? It must be Wang Songshan, right? He has now become Cousin Jetson's loser and prisoner. How good can you be? Cousin Jetson? Yang Ming repeated Kevithan's words, and his face suddenly showed a strange expression. Humph, you must have fought with him before, right? Kevithan thought that Yang Ming was afraid and was a little afraid of Cousin Jetson, so he said, if he hadn't left because he had something to do you think you can escape from his palm? He had something to do? Left? Yang Ming's expression became even more strange. Could it be that the old guy Jetson is not dead yet? No, I saw him fall into the burning pool and turn into a wisp of smoke with my own eyes. How about it? Choosing to surrender is a wise move. Otherwise, think about your family and the people of the butterfly family. Kevithan continued to threaten Yang Ming. In his opinion, Yang Ming didn't dare to make a move at the moment because his words had an effect. Jetson told you that he had something to do and left? Yang Ming asked incredulously. You don't need to know whether he told me or not. However, when you were fighting with him, he suddenly left. Isn't this a fact? Kevithan didn't know what Yang Ming meant by asking this, but he still asked. He suddenly left? Yang Ming was slightly stunned, and he understood a little in his heart. He guessed that when the two guys in front of him saw that he was safe and sound, they thought that Jetson had left because he had something to do, so they let him go. However, aren't they a little too blindly trusting of Jetson? Why, is there something wrong? Kevithan also vaguely felt that something was wrong. Otherwise, why would Yang Ming keep asking? You answer me first. Jetson told you personally that he had something to do and left? Yang Ming was a little unwilling to give up. Although he felt that Jetson was dead and couldn't speak again, the other party was a robot. It was possible that some strange things would happen. No, I contacted him with the walkie-talkie, but I couldn't get in touch. Kevithan didn't hide it. If he is fine, how can you still stand here? So that's the case. I thought that the dead could also speak. Yang Ming suddenly nodded and said, you scared me to death. Jetson has turned into a wisp of smoke. If he could speak, it would be a miracle. What did you say? Jetson is dead? Kevithan's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Yang Ming in disbelief and surprise. Impossible, you are lying. Cousin Jetson is invincible. How can he be defeated by you? You are not even as good as Wang Songshan. Who told you that I am not as good as Uncle Wang? Yang Ming replied faintly to Kevithan, that's your own imagination, right? Kevithan was suddenly speechless. Indeed, no one had ever said that Yang Ming was not as good as Wang Songshan. All of this was just his imagination and guess. Then, why didn't you come before? But Wang Songshan took the lead. Originally, we thought that it wouldn't take so much effort to kill good. If Uncle Wang came forward, it would be enough to praise you. However, we didn't expect you to find such a helper from some central place. Yang Ming explained faintly, it was a bit tricky, but he was unlucky. He fell into the burning pool and was burned to death instantly. Burned to death. Kevithan's expression finally changed. Yang Ming said it methodically, and he was so fearless. Is Jetson really dead? Yeah, Yang Ming sighed, it seems that no matter how high one's martial arts are, they are still afraid of burning. You know that my cousin Jetson came from Central, yet you still dare to kill him? A trace of fear finally flashed in Kevithan's eyes. It was the fear of death. What is Central? Is it very special? Yang Ming really didn't know what Central was. He had heard Jetson talk about Central, but he didn't know what was special about Central. Humph, you have offended Central. Just wait for your family to be exterminated. Kevithan said bitterly, Cousin Jetson is already very powerful, but there is an even more powerful Dr. Benjamin behind him. When he finds out that you killed Jetson, it will be your time of death. Dr. Benjamin? This was the first time Yang Ming heard this name, but he silently remembered it in his heart. Since he had already offended the other party, Yang Ming was not afraid of anything, but it was inevitable to be careful in the future. Chapter 1492. How is it? Are you scared? Kevithan saw Yang Ming's contemplative expression quickly said, I can hand Wang Songshan over to you. You can just take him away. In the future, our two families will mind their own business. I can also keep secrets for you and not leak information to Central. What do you think? After Kevithan heard that Cousin Jetson had been killed by Yang Ming, he no longer had the idea of killing or capturing Yang Ming alive because he knew that no one in the entire Lancer family was Cousin Jetson's opponent. Yang Ming was even more powerful than Cousin Jetson, so Kevithan had no intention of continuing to go against Yang Ming. Previously, Kevithan didn't believe that Cousin Jetson was killed by Yang Ming. However, after hearing Yang Ming's explanation, coupled with the fact that he couldn't contact Cousin Jetson previously, Kevithan had to accept this tragic and fucking fact. He originally thought that the Lancer family was going to be invincible in the world, but he didn't expect that it was just an illusion. In less than 2 minutes, this dream was ruthlessly shattered by Yang Ming. Kevithan was not a fool. The current situation was obviously that the enemy was strong and he was weak. If he didn't show weakness, he would be courting death, so Kevithan put forward his own suggestion. If you didn't say this, I really didn't think so much. Yang Ming looked at Kevithan sympathetically and said, I don't know what Central does. Although I'm not afraid of trouble, it's better to avoid trouble. When it comes to confidentiality, only the dead can keep secrets. So, you should go to the underworld and reunite with your cousin Jetson. Maybe you can establish a Lancer family in the underworld. Wait for me to die 100 years later, then deal with me. You. Kevithan's heart suddenly chilled after hearing Yang Ming's words. You want to destroy my Lancer family? I only want to kill the two of you. As for the others. TSK, if they can live, then they live. If they can't, then it's their own bad luck, Yang Ming said indifferently, as if he was talking about a very normal thing. Yang Ming was very clear about this. He had suffered a big loss because of Wang Jitao, so Yang Ming would not give the Lancer family a chance to turn the situation around and find trouble with him. No one could say whether someone in the Lancer family would have any opportunities in the future and suddenly rise again. Therefore, Yang Ming was simply finding trouble for himself by keeping them alive. You can't do that. Thomas's face was also filled with fear. He didn't doubt Yang Ming's ability, nor did he doubt Yang Ming's thoughts at this moment. Previously, didn't Thomas himself also vow to kill Yang Ming and be happy? He didn't expect Yang Ming to be merciful and let him go at this moment because it was simply impossible. Why can't I do that? Yang Ming looked at Thomas with a smile. Did you plan to let me go when you were strong before? This. Sure enough, Yang Ming had guessed his thoughts. Thomas's old face turned red. He couldn't say against his heart that he didn't have the intention to kill Yang Ming before. He just wanted to scare Yang Ming. Even if he said it, Yang Ming had to believe it. Or, can you give me a reason not to kill you? Yang Ming looked at Thomas and said somewhat jokingly. The Lancer family can become a vassal of the Butterfly family and serve the Butterfly family in the future. Thomas hesitated and said resolutely with a determined look on his face. Vassal? Yang Ming looked at Thomas with playful eyes, but didn't care at all. What's the use of the Butterfly family having you as a vassal? You really overestimate the meaning of the Lancer family's existence. Besides, do you still think that you are the family master of the Lancer family? Do you have the right to make the decision? Thomas was suddenly embarrassed by Yang Ming's question. I mean the same. Kevithan stood up at the right time and said to Yang Ming, as long as Mr. Yang promises to let go of the Lancer family, we will be your loyal subordinates in the future. Let me raise a tiger. Maybe when the tiger cub grows up again and comes back to bite me? Yang Ming smiled and said coldly, I think it's better for you to die and create a career with your cousin Jetson in the underworld. I hope you will be more alert in your next life and don't make such a low-level kindergarten child's IQ mistake and go against me. Yang Ming didn't want to listen to Kevithan's nagging anymore. After much consideration, Yang Ming decided to send him on his way. Although Kevithan's previous proposal to let the Lancer family rely on him was a very good tempting idea, Yang Ming didn't dare to do such a thing. Who knew what they were thinking? So, the simplest way was to let him become a dead man. Wait a minute. Kevithan's face became distorted. He no longer cared, reached for his waist, and pulled out the pistol. However, before he could raise his hand to raise the pistol, his eyes widened. His whole body suddenly stiffened, and he fell silently to the ground with a bang. Yang Ming sighed secretly after wasting a flying needle. He turned his head, looked at Thomas's face that had become pale due to shock, and said calmly, It's your turn. Thomas was really disheartened at this moment. He saw that Kevithan had actually died in an instant. Yang Ming didn't even touch Kevithan's body. He just raised his hand, and Kevithan fell to the ground. What kind of martial arts is this? Could it be the legendary inner force or true chi? Thomas had no thoughts of resisting these unknown things in his heart. He knew that he didn't have any weapons in his hands. He was not Yang Ming's opponent in a one-on-one fight, and it was even more impossible to escape. Although the weather at the moment was very cold, beads of sweat rolled down from Thomas's forehead. He didn't want to die, but he also understood that Yang Ming would never let him go. Just like how Yang Ming wouldn't let him go if he fell into Thomas's hands, he wouldn't let him go either. Don't kill my grandfather. I can exchange a secret with you. Suddenly, a loud shout broke the previous tense atmosphere. What are you doing here? Get out of here. Where there's life, there's hope. With you here, the Lancer family will rise again sooner or later. How can you foolishly come here to die? Thomas was shocked when he heard this voice. He didn't care if Yang Ming would kill him immediately and yelled at the person. Grandfather, I also agreed to deal with the Butterfly family in the beginning. This idea was mostly my idea, so I can't stay out of it. Said resolutely, Mr. Yang Ming, I can give you a secret about Central, and I can also tell you why Uncle Jetson is so powerful. However, in exchange, you have to let my grandfather and the people of the Lancer family go. Oh. Yang Ming looked at the former first successor of the Lancer family's family master with interest. He snorted in his heart. This kid is a talent, and he is also a ruthless character. How strong is Yang Ming's vigilance? How can he not notice which approaching here? It's just that Yang Ming didn't pay attention to him. He wanted to see what this kid was doing sneakily approaching here. In fact, Witch had already come here when he was fighting with the Lancer family's guards, but he didn't make a sound and hid in the dark. However, this kid had a gun in his hand and seemed to be waiting for an opportunity to aim at Yang Ming. After Yang Ming killed a team of people in an instant, Witch wisely chose to put down the gun in his hand. Although Yang Ming didn't ask about these things, he knew clearly under the surveillance of Yang Ming's special ability. At that time, Yang Ming felt that this kid, Witch, was not a simple character. He could actually make a decisive decision in an instant. After knowing that if he missed the shot, it might cause a lot of consequences, so he gave up the weapon in his hand and quietly observed the movement here. Since he didn't make a sound, Yang Ming didn't bother with him. Anyway, after dealing with Kevithan and Thomas, Yang Ming would still catch him. It's just that I didn't expect this kid to be Thomas's grandson. In the beginning, Yang Ming was still wondering. Since this kid knows some secret, why didn't he stand up before I killed Kevithan? But after thinking about it carefully, Yang Ming understood the key. Didn't this kid want to use my hand to kill Kevithan? Chapter 1493. Originally, the first successor of the family master was Witch, but now it had become Kevithan. It was impossible to say that Witch had no resentment in his heart. He didn't show it before because Kevithan had a strong backer, his cousin. Now that Jetson was dead, Witch's heart became active. He would use others to kill Kevithan, and then pretend that he had just arrived to tell Yang Ming that there was a secret. This kid has a good idea. Yang Ming narrowed his eyes and looked at Witch, who was walking in front of him. After using me as a tool, he still pretends to give me a big benefit. He's really not a good person. Yang Ming had secretly made up his mind. This kid is more dangerous than his grandfather. If I keep him, he will definitely become a big problem for me in the future. Yang Ming shook his head. If Witch wasn't so conceited, his secret would definitely attract Yang Ming. Previously, he would have evacuated with some of the Lancer family's elites overnight and found a secret place to recuperate. Maybe Yang Ming really didn't have the time to look for them. He also wouldn't have thought that Witch was so scheming. It was not impossible to let him go. As long as he didn't take the initiative to look for Yang Ming wouldn't bother with him. But now, since Yang Ming had discovered that this person was not simple, how could he let him go? As for the Central's matter and why Jetson was so powerful, Yang Ming already had a general understanding of it without Witch's explanation. Yang Ming didn't believe that Witch would know more. Perhaps he just found some clues occasionally, but thought that he had discovered something great and wanted to exchange conditions with Yang Ming. You know the Central's secret? You also know Jetson's secret? Yang Ming looked at Witch and asked faintly. There was no sense of fanaticism in his desire to know. Yang Ming's attitude made Witch a little nervous. He originally thought that as long as he spoke, Yang Ming would eventually agree to his conditions. After all, Yang Ming had provoked the Central. If he waited until this time to know more about the Central and Jetson, it would also be a form of support. In the future, he would be invincible in a face-to-face confrontation with the Central. However, after a moment of nervousness, Witch calmed down. In his opinion, Yang Ming's expression at this moment was just pretending to be calm. He asked himself if he was Yang Ming, he would definitely not let go of this news at this moment. Yes, Mr. Yang Ming. What do you think? I believe that Mr. Yang Ming is also a person of his word. After making a promise, you will comply. Witch deliberately raised Yang Ming's identity, fearing that Yang Ming would go back on his word after knowing the news. How do I know if what you said is useful to me? Why don't you tell me about the Central first, and I will judge the value of the news. If it is really useful, I will let you go. Yang Ming sneered in his heart, but he said calmly on the surface, if it is useless to me or something I already know, then don't say it. It is meaningless to say it. Okay. I believe that Mr. Yang will not go back on his word. I will talk about the Central first. In Witch's opinion, it didn't matter if he talked about the Central first. He wasn't going to say the most important secret about Jetson directly, but that was the most shocking news. Go ahead, I'll listen. Yang Ming nodded and stood there with an unfathomable look. The Central is a mysterious organization in Europe. It is not affiliated with any country or official leader. It is somewhat like an organization of a society. Which said, in the Central, there is a group of scientific freaks doing some experiments and scientific and technological research that are beyond the times. This organization is very mysterious. It is said that it is a terrorist organization, but it is not because many large families and small countries have tacitly agreed to its existence. They even ask the Central for something. Therefore, the Central can be said to be a transcendent existence, but no one knows what the ultimate purpose of this organization is. They have developed many epoch-making high-tech products, but they have never put them into the market. Of course, this is just hearsay. No one knows the real situation. Only the Central itself knows. Yang Ming nodded secretly. No wonder they can create a super-powerful robot like Jetson. This Central doesn't seem to be a simple organization. I don't know if I'm too lucky or too miserable to be an enemy of such a place. However, Yang Ming wasn't afraid of anything. He didn't care if it was the Central or not. As long as he dealt with all the trouble that came to him, then sorry, you can continue to open the Central in the underworld. Earth can no longer allow you to exist. It wasn't that Yang Ming was arrogant, but Yang Ming had an unyielding belief that one day, he would truly stand at the peak of the world. Many years ago, Uncle Jetson was a dying patient who was about to die. Dr. Benjamin from the Central found Jetson and took him away. However, when Uncle Jetson came back again, he had become such a powerful existence. Which paused at this point, and then said, "How is it? My news is good, right? Mr. Yang Ming, do you want to know how Uncle Jetson changed from a dying person to what he is now? Do you want to know the biggest secret? This is your so-called big secret?" A hint of mockery flashed in Yang Ming's eyes. You want to use this news in exchange for your lives? What Yang Ming wanted to know was just the Central's news. However, although what Witch said was somewhat useful to Yang Ming, since Witch knew about these things, Yang Ming believed that old Buffon would know too. So, what he said was basically equivalent to not saying anything. However, the most important sentence that Witch said was that Jetson was seriously ill a few years ago and was taken away by Dr. Benjamin. This was a piece of information that Yang Ming couldn't investigate. As for the big secret that Witch wanted to say next, Yang Ming already knew about it. There was no need for him to say it at all. Yang Ming had already found out the previous words, so this Witch had no value. Although Yang Ming was a thick-skinned and shameless person who often did things that went back on his words, his face was not red and his heart was not beating fast. He could promise Witch first and wait for Witch to finish before killing them, but it was also good to pretend to be a gentleman at this moment. Isn't Mr. Yang Ming curious? Witch was slightly taken aback. His previous words were to pave the way and whet Yang Ming's appetite. He didn't expect that Yang Ming wouldn't take the bait. Even if Yang Ming didn't let him talk about the Central's matters before, he would definitely say it, which would lead to Jetson's matter. However, he didn't expect that Yang Ming was still indifferent after Witch spent a long time talking. Curious? Why should I be curious? Yang Ming curled his lips. I know all these things you said. They are worthless at all. You know all of them? That's impossible. Witch didn't believe it, but he seemed to understand something in an instant. His face turned red and he said angrily, Yang Ming, do you want to go back on your words after listening to my explanation of the Central? Do you think the Central's matters are important? Let me tell you, Jetson's secret is the biggest. If you don't know, you will regret it. When the time comes, Central will send a team of people like Cousin Jetson, but you don't know their origins. Then, just wait for death. I don't believe you can kill a pair of people. Go back on my words. Yang Ming chuckled. Well, then I'll tell you what I know. See if I'm right. Is it your so-called big secret? Witch was taken aback. He didn't expect Yang Ming to say this. He said with some surprise, "What do you know?" Chapter 1494. Jetson, it's actually a robot, a modified robot. This is what you want to tell me, right? Yang Ming smiled slightly as if he was talking about a very normal thing. The inside of his body is all made of machinery, so it can be said that the current Jetson can no longer be called a normal person. It should be said that he is a robot. This is also the reason why he is so lively after so many years despite being critically ill. How did you know? Witch's face suddenly showed an expression of surprise and disbelief. He thought that he had discovered this matter by himself. How could Yang Ming know? This secret was discovered by Witch by accident. It was Jetson's first night in the Lancer family. Witch was very depressed in his heart. He knew that Kevithan would sit firmly on the family master's throne after having a powerful backer like Jetson, and he would have no chance to do so. The original position of the family master would fall on his head in a few years, but now it seemed that it had become a bubble. How could Witch not be depressed? Therefore, Witch didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in a remote corner of the manor, quietly looking at the night sky, recalling what had happened to him in the past few years. The joy of being established as the family master's heir, the cultivation of his grandfather over the years, and the high spirits he had when he saw good in trouble and made things difficult for the butterfly family. A series of things kept flashing in his mind like a movie. Witch really had the urge to cry. His great future was actually ruined by such a thing. It was not entirely true that he blamed Good. If he hadn't tried his best to help Good in the beginning and used such a bad move to make things difficult for the butterfly family, would there be a series of things that happened later? He could only blame himself for meddling in other people's business. If he had stopped it in front of his grandfather, he probably wouldn't have ended up like this. But who could he blame? To put it bluntly, Witch wanted to help Good because he wanted to show off his awesome strength and get a sense of being worshipped high above others. But just for this momentary feeling, he lost the position of the family master. It was really sad. However, just as Witch was complaining, footsteps suddenly came from the courtyard. Witch was shocked. He didn't want others to see him in such a down-and-out state, so he quickly hid in the grass at the side and didn't dare to breathe. If the families Slade or Leckroft saw this, they might laugh at him. Witch didn't want to become the object of ridicule, so he only waited for the footsteps to go away before coming out. Just as the Orange Bureau held their breath, they heard a strange sound coming into their ears. How many years have I not laid in bed at night? I haven't slept. I'm really not used to it. These strange words suddenly made Witch a little inexplicable. Through the faint moonlight, Witch suddenly discovered that the person speaking not far away was actually Uncle Jetson. Seeing that it was someone from Kevithan's family, Witch didn't dare to breathe loudly. Although he wondered what Jetson meant, he didn't want to ask. After all, he was now crying sadly. It would be embarrassing if he was seen by others. However, this body is really good. Dr. Benjamin is really amazing. He actually replaced all the internal organs in my body with sophisticated electronic components, but he can still maintain my previous memory and let me have independent thoughts. It's incredible. Jetson sighed again and said to himself, I didn't expect that with such an opportunity. I would become Superman in Kevithan's eyes when I see him again. Witch suddenly opened his mouth wide after hearing Jetson's words. He didn't expect that Jetson's true identity was actually a robot, not a normal person. It wasn't strange for the association to hear Grandpa Thomas say that Jetson could smash a marble conference table with one hand during the day. And Jetson seemed to have become the existence of the Terminator in the movies. This made Witch shocked and scared, and he didn't dare to make a sound. He was afraid that Jetson would kill him without hesitation after he knew Jetson's secret. After waiting for a while, he finally heard the sound of Jetson's footsteps leaving and is muttering to himself, I'd better go back and pretend to sleep. Although I'm not used to it, I don't want the Lancer family to find any clues. Since knowing Jetson's true identity, which had also become indifferent to the position of the family master. He was not as eager as before because he already understood that with the support of a powerful backer like Jetson, it was impossible for him to be promoted. He was not a robot's opponent. Which naturally didn't dare to say Jetson's secret. Who knew what Jetson would do to him after this secret was spread? However, now that Jetson was dead, Which wanted to use this secret to threaten Yang Ming to achieve the purpose of the exchange. He originally thought that such a thing was in the bag, but Yang Ming's words disrupted his plan. Yang Ming knew. Yang Ming actually knew that Jetson was a robot, and the information from Witch's mouth became useless. This made Witch extremely frustrated, but he also understood that Yang Ming was not lying to him, but really knew Jetson's secret. Since you know, why can't I know? Yang Ming curled his lips and said lightly, what you said before about Central is not a secret at all. The big families in the upper-class society basically know about it. Do you think I don't know? I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about Jetson's secret. Which didn't expect that what Yang Ming really didn't know was indeed Central's secret. Jetson's secret. He jumped into the burning pool himself, and then his outer appearance melted away. The internal machine was naturally exposed, and he turned into a pool of molten iron in a while. I saw it with my own eyes. What's so difficult to know? Yang Ming shrugged and said naturally. Of course, this was Yang Ming's casual words. Yang Ming couldn't tell Witch that he saw it with his special ability. Even if Witch was a dying person, Yang Ming didn't intend to tell his secret to this person. It turns out to be like this. Witch sighed and said bitterly, it seems that my news is a step too late and has become useless news. It's good that you know. Although Yang Ming felt that Witch was a courageous and knowledgeable talent, he couldn't be kept because he was a talent. So, he said, okay, I should send you on your way. If you have a chance in your next life, reincarnate into an ordinary small family. This kind of big family is not good for you. Witch's face showed a complicated look. He knew that he couldn't escape, so he calmed down. I didn't expect you to be such an anomaly. No wonder even the Buffon family suddenly befriended the butterfly family. You should be the one who contacted them, right? Yes. Yang Ming didn't hide anything in the face of Witch's questioning. Hee, so that's the case. No wonder, no wonder. Witch said a few, no wonder, in a row. Sure enough, the people of our Lancer family are not observant and arrogant to a certain extent. We should have thought of it earlier. If such a proud family like the Buffon family could condescend to befriend the butterfly family, there must be a more powerful person in the middle. However, all of us neglected this point. It's not a loss to lose to you. Thomas looked at his grandson, who had a determined look on his face, and his expression was gloomy. Why didn't we think of such a simple truth in the beginning? If we had thought of it earlier, wouldn't we have avoided a disaster? Yang Ming, you can do it, but I beg you to give me a quick death. Don't torture us, grandfather and grandson. Thomas was calm in a hopeless situation. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.